Hey guys, welcome to After Hours. This is the first one that I'm doing with video. I know I'd possibly maybe heard me saying in the past that I didn't want to do video because I don't listen to podcasts or watch them on video. But you know what? Like some people do, and I want to be able to kind of reach all my listeners on all the formats that they listen to. And you know what? Like, what's wrong with seeing my beautiful guests and having to put up with me in some of the chat. So I thought I'll do the video. Hit me up and let people know if they are enjoying it. You know, you'll still be able to listen to it in audio. So if you are just listening to it in audio and you think, oh, I want to see this, so pop over onto Spotify. I think Spotify and YouTube are the only ones that accommodate the video at this point. So you have to kind of I don't even know if you need to subscribe on Spotify or like pay for it. You might don't know, but I think you can just do it with ads. Obviously mine doesn't have ads at the moment, but there'll be the Spotify ads. So we're doing video. So welcome to whoever who's watching. Hello. For the ones on audio, I just gave a little wave there. But I'm not going to do that the whole way through because, it'll become a little bit distracting having to describe the scene and what everyone's doing, what my guests are doing. So that's not going to happen. So welcome. It's a bit of a different episode today. We have Lucy Norfolk. Now, I heard Lucy on Sober Dave's podcast. I think we reckon it was about 18 months ago that she was on Dave's, and her story was just like literally took like the wind out of my chest. It's absolutely devastating. Lucy herself doesn't have a problem with alcohol, never has really, but her husband Dan did, and he just went through the absolute ringer and took Lucy and their young children along with them. It was just a horrendous episode of or catalogue of episodes where he would try and get sober, but I think by the end he was just too far in it. He was failed multiple times by social services, by the NHS, some of which did amazing things, but the majority of it was failing him. To even say to him right at the beginning when he said to Lucy, "I think I have a drink problem," and they didn't know what to do. They were still young, and they went to the doctors, and the doctors said, "We send one person a year to rehab, and from what you've told me, Dan, you're not drinking enough for me to warrant that." I mean, it just baffles, it absolutely fucking baffles that person in a position of, caring, due care and health, and would just turn someone away that was clearly struggling. And it just went from worse to worse to worse. Some of the things in the episode are very triggering. Lucy does give us quite graphic descriptions of, what she went through with Dan. So just be mindful when you're listening or watching to this episode. I think, I know Lucy's story needs to get out there into, the forefront, so that people can kind of wake up, listen, and know that, this, Dan didn't want this. He doesn't want this at all, and, but it happened, and it was because he was drinking, and it got hold of him, and, we touch a little bit on potentially Dan's anxiety that was possibly why he drank. Lucy didn't go into too much of that in the actual episode. We discussed it afterwards why, we reckon that Dan possibly had a drink problem from an early age. But, For family protection and things like that. We didn't go into it on the episode, but Lucy is, looking through Dan's journals and things like that. We touched a little bit on that at the end of the episode. Just really to kind of try and put a book together. Obviously, it's still quite raw and tough for her to do at this point, so she's kind of taking her time with it. But between listening to her on Dave's podcast until now, you can definitely hear the strength in Lucy now. She's always been strong. Don't get me wrong, but just the fact that she's been through this and she's doing better. She's getting stronger. So hopefully soon she will be able to kind of put Dan's journals into a book, and the world can kind of know exactly what went on. But for now, just listen to this. Take care when listening. It is a tough listen, but I think if people are interested in my podcast and interested in where alcohol can have a really detrimental effect on not just the person but the person's family, then please listen. I'll be back at the end. Thanks, guys. Hi, Lucy. Welcome to After Hours. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Yeah. I mean, you're saying that you're having the heat wave over there. We've had a bit of sunshine, but not too hot weather in the Isle of Man. Um, so you're in Suffolk, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, Suffolk. We've got I think it was 35 the other day.
Oh,
It's so hot. But I
it's
love it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We don't want to complain. I mean, I think we've had the hottest this year, maybe 25, 26. So it's hot enough for us because we're used to it. If we got 35, we'd probably all just be kind of
It was
hiding
dead.
out.
It hit 30, yeah, because then it hit 35 and then I teach dancing, so I had to cancel my class because it was just too hot for anyone to
Oh,
actually
yeah.
dance. And we
You
don't have
don't.
air conditioning over here. Not
You d-
really.
Why would we have air conditioning for one
No,
little,
exactly.
heat wave in the middle of
Yeah.
the summer? But yeah, you don't want to be dancing when it's absolutely roasting outside. Uh, so Lucy, yeah, thanks for coming on the podcast. Obviously, for the listeners, your story is a little bit different to kind of my usual guests who have problems with addiction and things like that. So your story is slightly different, but obviously still in the same vein. So do you want to tell us a little bit, like, just about your kind of upbringing and then where you kind of met your husband Dan?
Um, so I was born in Suffolk. My parents are
Yeah.
from Newcastle in Yorkshire, and I had quite a good childhood, really. I'd say my mum worked all the time, so
Hmm. Hmm.
but but other than that, I was with my grandma a lot. I was pretty much, I'd say, in a way, raised by my grandma because my mum was working all the time.
Okay.
And my grandma lived next door to my uncle. My uncle was alcoholic, and
Right.
so I already had that. I knew what alcohol was, but I didn't really know to the extent what alcoholic meant.
Hmm.
I just knew he was alcoholic and he would drink a bit too much, and but I didn't really think about it. My grandma drank a lot, and
Hmm.
I never, again, didn't really even question it. Never, we were very close. I was very close to her. And when my granddad died when I was 11, so I pretty much stayed there all the time.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's difficult. It's different for children growing up. We hear that word alcoholic maybe on TV, or they might have, I don't know, episodes of soap operas where it's mentioned, and but we don't really have an understanding of it. And I suppose even
mm,
being face to face with that, it was maybe done kind of when you'd gone to bed and things like that. So you don't
I didn't
really.
really ever think about it. I was around it. My grandma would she'd say, "Oh, just the one sherry," and she'd have like the whole bottle. She,
Yeah.
by the end, my grandma did have a bottle of wine and half a bottle of sherry a night.
Wow.
And she actually, I think she was 76 when she died.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I was just like, oh, well, she's we'd never really even questioned. Like I used to take her to the doctors and they would say, "How much are you drinking?" She'd say, "Oh, just the one, like one a day," or like just nothing really. And doctor
Yeah,
test results would show different. She'd and I smoked one cigarette, she smoked 40 or something.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I just never questioned it. None of us really did. It was just that's how it was. And
Because she was probably doing that in the comfort of her home and not
yeah,
out,
but
causing
she was.
havoc.
She was
Yeah,
kind, she was caring, she was lovely, and she
yeah.
was the best grandma I could have ever had. So,
And I don't think she was, waking up in the morning and reaching for the sherry. They had a kind of
no,
an old school doctrine where it was like, no drinking till maybe five,
yeah.
6 o'clock or
Like, well, what
even
time is
later.
it? Now I can have a drink.
Yeah,
I
yeah, but they
didn't
would
really,
stick to that,
yeah,
and it's yeah, and 76, I suppose, we think, oh, that's quite old, but it's not old at all,
yeah,
really, in the grand
not
scheme of
really. I think
things.
like actually she should have, in a way, still been here. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, she died when I had Isaac. I had Isaac, he was 2 months old when she died,
Right,
and
right.
I met Dan.
Yeah.
I was doing theatre and singing and things, and I went to the West End in London, and
Hmm.
I was singing the backstage because they used to have this choir type orchestra thing at the back, so it would increase the sound on stage. So I was singing, and he was the main actor in this Boogie
Hmm.
Nights show we did, and and then I met him backstage I met him in the rehearsals, but not too much. And then backstage, I met him in the week that we were doing the rehearsals. And
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, I did, know, a couple of people joking, laughing, and saying that he was drunk while on stage. But
Right.
he gave a perfect performance of everything. He had the audience up and laughing. He did go off script a couple of times, so the people were annoyed with him, but I hadn't even really realised that.
I mean, if it worked, it worked, and he went off
Exactly, it
piste, but
worked.
it was the show, it's improv, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
But he was so talented. He was amazing at doing all of that. And then he said, yeah, like afterwards we go to the after show, and we all had like meals out, and he couldn't come, and I said, like, oh, I didn't understand why he couldn't come,
Hmm.
but actually now I know he couldn't come because he couldn't afford to come because he was drinking and he wasn't
Right.
really earning any money from it. So he just said, "Oh, I can't come." And so he said, "But if you want, you can come back to mine afterwards, after the after show." So I
Hmm.
said, "Okay." And he said, "Bring a bottle of wine." Didn't even. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went over to his with a bottle of wine
Yeah.
afterwards, and yeah, and so I didn't have a clue he was alcoholic. I didn't
But I
know.
mean, so how old were you at this point, Lucy?
It was 2008. I was 26.
Right, okay. And Dan was the same age, was he
Dan
about?
was 27.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so same age. But that's the kind of thing, I'm a few years older than you guys, but it's like going round to someone for a date, you'd either go for a drink or, bring a bottle of wine. It
Yeah.
wasn't kind of anything untoward, was it? And
No.
how were you to know that he was,
But it was,
alcoholic?
I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And then it got
Do you
on.
think do you think he was like an alcoholic at that point then at 27?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he
Yeah.
could have stopped.
Yeah.
Um, well, he couldn't, but he was in denial then. He wouldn't say he was alcoholic then at that
Hmm.
point. He would
Hmm.
say that he could just stop and that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Um, but also in that environment, he was doing stand-up comedy and he was doing things like all the acting. And afterwards, everyone would buy each other drinks and
Yeah,
go
of
out.
course.
So he got bought a lot of drinks. If he did a stand-up comedy night, everybody in the bar would buy him a drink. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even a question like, oh, he's alcoholic. Nobody even like
But
mentioned it.
But it also sounded like, at that point in his career, he's like, the kind of star of the show, he's a comedian. So it's almost like he's kind of made it, he's getting all this accolade every night. He's coming off
Yeah.
stage and people are, plying him with drinks. And, it sounds like maybe he did drink a little bit for the confidence on stage as well. I mean, when
Yeah,
I drank, I thought I was, the funniest man alive. I probably wasn't, but it sounds like Dan actually was, and had the charisma to
Yeah,
go
to the
with it.
point until he had too much, and then I,
Mm.
I was like, that's debatable.
Yeah.
But he was he was fun, and he was
Yeah.
kind. He was very, he liked the girls.
Right.
And I think he
Well,
was
he's a
very much,
showman. He's a showman, you know.
he
It's
thought he could get any girl in the whole room. He probably could have done at the time. He was
yeah,
very much like, yeah. I found that quite, yeah, difficult.
difficult, yeah.
Yeah,
But so how did that date go? And then it sounds like, you know, he chose
it was
you out of
fine.
all the
Yeah,
kind
he
of
also had a child. So I went over on another night.
Mhm.
And I think I went back then every night for the next, like, during the day. I went over to his, and he was living in this flat, which actually was owned by his auntie. And he was meant to
Okay.
be paying his auntie rent, but I didn't know he hadn't been paying his auntie rent. And she was starting to get angry, but I didn't know any of that because
Yeah,
I was just
yeah.
going over for a date. But so, and he had this child. He had Ollie, who was his previous relationship.
Right.
Uh, Ollie was 6 months old when Dan was in this other relationship, and then they broke up. And
Hmm.
he Ollie didn't know that Dan wasn't his real dad, but he called him Dad.
Right.
So
Okay.
I went over and there's this 5-year-old, 6-year-old child, like,
Yeah.
and he's like, "This is my son Ollie." And then he explained he's not his real son, but he is because he's adopted this child.
Oh, he'd actually adopted, just wasn't
Well,
like a
he
stepfather
hadn't.
type thing.
Yeah, no, he had taken Ollie on as his own, and
Right.
Ollie didn't know at that point that he wasn't his dad. So Ollie called him dad,
Hmm.
and uh, and it was strange because then after that happened, then I went over there and knocked on the door and he didn't answer, and I was like, that's a bit weird. Why isn't he answering the door? And
Mm.
things started to be a bit confusing, and I thought something's not right here. I don't
Yeah,
know
little
what
red
is going
flags.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of red flags, and I don't know why I carried on like doing something, but
Do
I
you know
really
what,
liked
Lucy?
him.
Where yeah, you loved him. You're young, you know, and it's kind of like,
I was
oh well, you
naive and
know,
I had no idea.
yeah.
Uh, and I I didn't really realize. Then it was every time I went over, I'll bring a bottle of wine. And
Hmm.
I jokingly, I'd messaged him. I've still got every message from him and me together.
Oh,
And I sent him a message saying, "Is it the wine you want or me over yours?" And he obviously replied, "No, it's you I want to see. Don't worry about the wine." And then obviously I went over with a bottle of
with a
wine, didn't
bottle of
think
wine.
anything
Yeah.
about it. Like,
You tested him and he'd
bring
answered
over what
correctly.
you like to
So
drink. That was it. Bring over what you want to drink. So I took Tia Maria. I like Tia Maria.
yeah,
And he said, "Oh, I hate Tia Maria." Anyway, coincidentally, the whole bottle of Tia Maria had disappeared when I next went over. And he said, "Oh,
yeah.
my mum likes Tia Maria, so she obviously has drank it. Sorry about that." It wasn't anything to do with his mum. He
No.
loved it so much. And
And what was your drinking like, Lucy, when you'd go over? I mean, would you have like one or two, or were you drinking kind
yeah, I
of like
probably had
him,
one
or
or two. I didn't
yeah,
really have loads, and then I'd just stay the night and drive home the next day. So I wouldn't
yeah.
really drink like he did, and I wouldn't get any of it. I'd get like one glass of wine. He'd finish the bottle.
And he'd finish the bottle. Would he? So would he be? I mean, one bottle between kind of two of you, even though if he's having like 2/3 of it, would he be getting drunk on that, or do you
Not
think he would have
really.
had?
No, he wouldn't get drunk on
He
it.
wouldn't
No.
get drunk on that, no, and he wouldn't have any other drink in the house. It would just
I
be
think he
that
probably
bottle at that
did
point.
have. He did have other drink in the house, but I didn't
Yeah.
know. Then, uh, and then he got kicked out of the flat,
This is
and
his auntie's flat.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, "Oh, my auntie wants the flat back, and I owe her money." And he basically cried, and he was like, I've got to get out of the flat by the end of the week." So I was like, right,
Right.
okay. And this was like 2 weeks, I don't know, maybe a month into the relationship.
Oh, right. That soon.
I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, okay." So he said, "Do you think you could help me move the stuff out? I'm just
Uh-huh.
going to chuck everything away." And he literally did chuck everything he owned away, into the bins and and then he said, "Can you come with me? Can we just post the keys back through my auntie's door and put the
Mm.
money through?" I hadn't met his auntie at all. So I lent him £500 to pay his auntie
Right.
and give the keys back. So I posted them through her door, but that was it.
It's a bit strange as well with it being your auntie. You'd think
Yeah.
you'd kind of go around and have a cup of tea. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff was he throwing
Obviously, he'd
away?
fallen out with her. So he had said,
Right.
I thought he'd
Yeah.
fallen out with her because he hadn't paid her, and now she's kicked him out,
Yeah.
um, and she's it's got to go back. Then he and there was somebody else he owed money to, another
Uh-huh.
£500 that he needed because he owed somebody else money. This ex-girlfriend's brother was about to beat him up. So so
Wow.
he said, "Oh, can I borrow some more money?" I don't know how he manipulated me, but he did. And I
Yeah.
lent him the money, and obviously never got it back. So and I didn't realize at that point friends had lent him money. He had some really good, nice friends,
Hmm.
and they had lent him money, and he'd fallen out with one really good friend, who I never met. I did at the funeral eventually, but he he had gone and rented a flat with this friend and
Hmm.
never paid the rent. So his friend was paying it all, and to the point where then they fell out and they got.
Yeah.
But that was a really good friend at uni. And then his other few friends, they lent him money, and then they stopped lending him money because he never got it back.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize any of that at the
So it
time.
seemed to be like a kind of across town kind of friends and
Yeah,
family just
anyone.
lending in money.
Yeah, anyone he could get money from, he would get it from.
Yeah. And so was he working at this point still at the show
He
and
said he
doing
was,
comedy
yeah. Oh, he was
nights?
working at the show, but the show had finished, and then
Yeah.
he said he had a job. He'd got a job. He said, "I've got another job as a teacher."
Yeah.
So I said, "All right, okay." But I didn't. That actually all turned out not to be true. So a few weeks in, when I realised everything was going wrong, about 6 weeks in, and I just went, no.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Understandably.
what
Yeah.
is going on? I'd moved him out of his flat into his mum's house. Didn't even see his mum or dad or anybody. Um, Gone in, taken the stuff in, and then and then left. And then
Mm.
I was sometimes staying the night at his mum's house, but I still hadn't met his mum or anyone there. So
Oh,
that
right.
was, and he was just like hiding me, I think. I don't know. And then it was one morning and he was meant to be going to work and just nothing added up. And he went in the bathroom. So I went into the bedroom. I looked at his phone and I went through his phone. I was like, oh my God. And saw text messages from other girls,
Oh,
him asking for money. I rang where he said he worked and they said never heard of him. I then um, and then I found 4 empty bottles of vodka in his bag that was meant to be his work bag.
mm.
And so I left and I walked out the house, got in
Yeah.
my car and drove home and sent him a text message saying, I know everything. Don't. And I'm gone. Like, I'm not coming
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously when he was passed out in the bathroom or something because he never came out. And then he eventually texted me back and said, I'm so sorry. And I suppose he then I said, yeah, fine. I'm not going out for you. It's fine. I'm just like not. And then he eventually he kept asking me to go and meet him, and then
Hmm.
I kept saying no. And then eventually he said, a couple of weeks after, he said, I don't suppose you want to go out just for a meal as friends. I'll pay for it. And I said okay. I was just like, and so I went to Basildon where he lived,
Uh-huh.
picked him up, I went to his mum's house, waited outside, and he came out and he was smartly dressed and he got in the car and we talked and we went to this restaurant and he bought dinner for us both.
Right.
And he talked to me. He said, I'm sorry, I've got to sort my life out and all this stuff. Anyway, I was like, okay, go.
Was there any mention of alcohol being a problem at this point, or was it just I need
No,
to sort my life out as a kind
yeah,
of
no, nothing to do with alcohol. No.
right, right.
His mum locked the cupboard which had the alcohol in, but he had said that's for his brother that he'd locked it. I don't think it
Yeah.
was. And so but I did mention a bit, I think I'd said about alcohol, but he's just like, oh, no, I'm going to not drink at all. Then, but then I went to drop him home
Hmm.
after being out for the meal and everything. And he said, just leave me here in town centre. And I said, well, why? He said, and he put all his bags in my car. He had his suitcase and everything. And I said, you can't, like, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm just, like, just put these in for the moment and then I'll sort them out. basically he said, I can't live at my mum's anymore, so I've got nowhere to live, but it's okay because I'll just live on the street and I'm happy with that. Just leave me here. And I was naive.
So sorry, when did he bring the suitcases out? Was this like after the meal or when you
Before the
picked him
meal,
up?
before when I picked him up, we put them in my car. And I was
Right.
like, right, okay. But I didn't really, I don't know why I didn't question that. I should, but if that was now, so I ended up with him living in my car for a little bit.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
and I couldn't leave him on the street.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought,
of course. Yeah, I mean,
can't believe you
you
have
still had
him.
feelings for this guy,
Yeah, I did.
and obviously you have set a bit of a boundary by saying you're staying in the car, not in my flat
Mm,
or house, you know.
yeah. But I was
So
living with my mum at that point. I'd gone back home
yeah, right.
because I'd come out of another relationship that was 4 years before
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And so I had to move temporarily back in with my mum and
yeah,
stepdad. So he couldn't come there because they already knew what he'd done, and they because I talked to them for everything, so they were like, yeah.
So
So
where were you parking your car that he was then living out of?
I stayed at my dad's house, and he slept in the car. I slept in the car a couple of nights with him every now and then.
Yeah,
Been on for a couple of weeks, and I was like, this can't. I don't know what to do. Literally, if that was now, I would say, okay, and I would literally let the person let him out, put the
yeah.
suitcases on the wherever, and say, see you later.
Yeah,
But
but
I wouldn't. I
I guess you had some, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe I mean obviously you like Dan and you love them and you kind of maybe felt that you could help him or
yeah,
something.
I
You know,
think
I
I
think you
probably
obviously thought
did.
this is he's a bit
Yeah.
tortured here and he's a good guy, but I need to
I just didn't know what to
I can't
do
just drop
because
him off in the street,
yeah,
you know. Yeah.
yeah. And then my grandma came to the rescue, and
Hmm.
she said, "Look, why don't you move in with me?" So that's what we actually went to my grandma's house, and I moved in with my grandma,
Right.
and but he spoke to my whole family in the kitchen, stood with my mum, my aunt, and all my family because they're all really close.
Hmm.
And he said, I'm so sorry. And I am going to sort myself out. I'm going to get a job like properly. I'm going to finish my teacher training. I'm going to get a job as a teacher.
Hmm.
I'm going to not drink. And so he started drinking just the non-alcoholic drinks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we got
I
the
mean,
blue.
so what this is probably what are we thinking like early noughties really is this
Yeah.
then yeah, so alcohol free stuff wasn't really it's not as big as it is now, you know. I
No,
think you had
no,
like
not as
Beck's
big.
Blue and that was about
I think
it. Yeah.
Beck's Blue,
Yeah.
we got crates of that and he drank that. Just to cut down. It wasn't like, oh, the alcohol's an issue. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, if I stop, I better stop drinking. It's too expensive. Can't afford that. Got no
Mhm.
money. So,
And do you
uh,
think he was drinking? And I only ask because in my drinking career, I would tell my partner at the time that I was going to give up and I would drink non-alcoholic stuff so that there was a taste of like you know like beer or something
yeah,
on my breath so that
yeah,
if she kissed me or whatever, but I had vodka hidden in the bathroom,
yeah.
you
He
know.
probably did. I think he
Yeah.
did. But yeah, I
I
think
don't know
he,
how I thought I could hide it because obviously I was getting slightly, you know, tipsy throughout the night.
yeah.
And then she'd go to bed and then I would drink more. But like throughout the night, it was like, well, why are you getting drunk on non-alcoholic stuff? But she obviously
Yeah.
knew, you know.
I think he did do it a bit,
Yeah.
but it was very half-hearted kind of, oh yeah, I'll do this because you want me to do this,
Yeah.
and to prove a point because
Yeah.
otherwise I don't think he'd be allowed to stay at my grandma's house. And then he got a job
Mm.
as a teacher
So
in
he finished the training
did
qualification,
do
all of
what he
that.
said he was
Yeah.
going to do. He did everything he said, and
Yeah. And so, sorry, Lucy, just to get the
so
timeline right. So from when you first met him to like say when he's started working as a teacher, how long are we talking? Like still quite a
I
short.
had Isaac because I got pregnant with Isaac at
Oh,
this. I can't remember when it was, but it was quite early on. And so it must have been a year. We had kind of a year in, I guess. I got
yeah.
with Isaac, and and then it was like, now what? Like you're gonna. And so he basically at that point was like, I'm going to sort everything out. I'm going to. well, so that was 2009
Hmm.
that he decided that he was gonna sort his life out or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
We and that he wanted to be in a relationship with me, and he was sorry, and he'd never, yeah, go off with a load of girls or whatever he said he was going to do, and
Mm.
not drink and not like. So then we had to find our own place to live
Hmm.
before the baby came along. So we were with grandma for a bit, and then we moved into a house which was not too far away. I was used to work for the family business, which was a holiday park. So he was
Oh,
working on the holiday park as well for a bit
yeah, yeah.
before then. And then we moved and into this flat for 6 months. Um, yeah, and then I had Isaac, but I
Hmm.
was driving him to work because he was working in school at that point.
And could
So
he not drive?
no, he could never drive, and I couldn't
Mhm.
understand why. I wanted to. I said, "I'll teach you to drive," and he would get quite defensive. No, I'm not learning to drive. He just would not learn to drive. I'm not driving. And so I was like, oh, right then. And he used to say, oh, I can't afford to drive. We can't have two cars, can't have.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I said, fair enough, fine, whatever. So then I just drove him into work every day.
Hmm.
And then I was going to work myself and taking Isaac. It was like,
So how long a drive in the morning was that? How far away did you say,
um,
sorry, he
I
was?
was like 45 minutes away from
Oh.
my grandma's after that. He was round the corner because we'd gone near his work, not mine, because obviously some of it he could walk
He could
to.
walk too, right, right. I get that. Yeah,
It made
yeah,
sense, but
yeah.
yeah. But then we had to get out the flat because you weren't allowed babies in the or children in the flat. So
Oh,
we moved. But while in the flat, he started drinking wine, and I was like, "What are you drinking?" And and so what
so
he did,
had he had a bit of abstinence at this
yeah,
point?
he
You
had had a
know,
bit, yeah, a
yeah,
bit, not a
yeah.
lot, but a
No, but
bit for a
yeah,
while. And he'd go to work and be sober, so
yeah.
not drink while at work. He'd come back from work and he'd get a bottle of wine and he'd make dinner for me.
Hmm.
We'd eat dinner. He'd run a lovely bath with candles and everything. I'd go in the bath and he'd get drunk.
Yeah,
And so he was drinking more and more until he was like, "Oh, I think you should go to bed because you're tired because you're pregnant." And so I'd go to bed, and obviously he'd stay up drinking till he passed out.
yeah.
And that just carried on for a while I was pregnant with Isaac. And then and then I said, "I think you've got a drink problem." He's like, "No, I think it's fine, it's fine."
Hmm.
And then I don't know if we were in that place or another. I think we were in that. He said eventually he came up and said he has got a drink problem.
Hmm.
Um, and he said, I think maybe I need to go to the doctor. And I said, okay, I'll come with you. Went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, how much are you drinking? And he said, wine each night.
Hmm.
And he said, well, you're not. We send one person a year to rehab, so you're not really bad enough to send to rehab. So basically, go away and like,
And that's
deal
what
with it.
annoys me so much. You know, when I
Yeah.
went, it was, well, I went with depression actually, and they never said to me how much you drink. And if they
Mm,
had, I would have been like, well, quite a bit of vodka a night, from half bottle to a bottle a day, pretty much. Yeah, and they just don't seem to have that
they
kind
didn't.
of that alcohol's a
Yeah.
problem. And this is obviously going back to what, 2009, 2010.
Mm,
So I think a lot more things are in place now, but it's still
yeah.
not great. But yeah, to just be turned away by the doctors, I mean, didn't they
Yeah.
even advise like AA or anything like that?
No, not at that point. They didn't
No.
do anything. They just said, "Oh well, you're
And so
the."
he's saying to the doctor like a bottle of wine, but obviously if he's
Yeah,
running
it
you
was more than
baths,
that. It
yeah,
was more than that. He wasn't totally honest with them, but you'd
no.
think they'd know that anyway.
Yeah. And were you finding bottles or was he quite
I found
caustic?
bottles
You
and
found
stuff. Yeah,
bottles, yeah.
then it'd cause an argument. Then we'd end up in an argument. Then I tried pouring it away, and then he'd get angry with me, and then it just
Yeah.
went round and round and round.
Oh no,
And
because I was the same and I got so defensive. It was almost like you're taking this like the hard to explain like this source of my life away almost. It's
yeah,
it's just
why?
so you get so defensive over it. So I
Yeah,
can, I can understand that. And
yeah,
then it's almost the shame and the embarrassment when the bottles are found. It's like you just go straight into defensive mode rather
yeah.
than, oh, I've been caught. Do you know what I mean? It's more
Yeah.
like
Well, that was or it's your fault. That's what I
yeah,
do. It's your fault. It's because I'm stressed because you because you've done this, you've done that, you're to blame. Right, okay.
And so you're pregnant still at this time, and then what was it like
Yeah, I was
when
pregnant, and
Isaac was
then
born?
and then we had one major kind of thing in the flat. He got really angry
Hmm.
one night after drinking. I think I poured the vodka away, or poured something away, and he got really angry with me. And then he said, "I'm just going to kill myself." And he got a
Yeah.
knife out the drawer, and I was pregnant, and I walked out of my flat. The thing is, when you shut the door in the flat, you're locked out if you don't have your keys.
Yeah.
And so I ran out the door and it locked me out. So then all I knew is he's in there with a knife telling me he's going to kill himself. So I called the police, I think it was. And well, I rang 999 and I put the phone down because then I thought, actually, no, I don't want to do that. And then they turned up anyway because they tracked the call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it was like, oh God, I'm pregnant. He's in there. They said we open the door or we'll batter it down. And they
Hmm.
went in and they spoke to him and said, think you need to go to bed. And
And I'm guessing he was quite inebriated at that point when you're
yeah,
pouring the vodka away, and
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So uh and then yeah, so they calmed everything down. He went to bed and then it was the next day I was like, you can't drink. That's just you
Mhm.
obviously got a problem. He was still in that kind of, oh well, I think I can sort it out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and so was he? Did he remember the night before? Did he
Yeah, a
remember
little
what had
bit, but not
happened? Not,
really, no.
not a bit
He
hazy. And
yeah.
it's that whole thing where, and I
I
don't
was
know, looking
angry. He
back,
said, I can't believe you called the police. Why would you do that? That's
yeah,
just stupid. I was like, well,
defensive.
actually, I rang 999. Didn't actually think that
They
I
would
should.
show up. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a
So that caused
welfare
an
thing, isn't
argument.
it? It's a welfare thing. They have to. And I
Yeah.
think, like looking back from mine, it was like, I thought I can do this myself,
Mm.
and I'll give myself this one last chance. But how many times I said that? Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think if I knew if I handed it over to getting outside help, I wasn't in control anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it was like
Yeah.
I'll keep it, and I can do this, and I can, and I suppose Dan, like myself, probably believed that he could.
Yeah, I think he really believed that he was going to be all right. He could sort
Yeah,
it out, and it wasn't that big a deal,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
And then we were going to move house. So we were like, well, we're moving house. It'll be a fresh start.
yeah.
We'll get, that will be the answer to everything. He'll stop drinking. So he, again, he went through trying to stop and sort of not really stopping.
Mm,
Um, and we moved house and I was pregnant. I was literally, I think, a week into being due for Isaac.
hmm.
And then we moved in. And then a few weeks later, went into labour with Isaac, and yeah, that was crazy. My grandma had bought us loads of stuff for the house, and
And
yeah,
was he there for the birth? Was he there on time
yeah, he
and
was there,
sober and
but because it was so long, he was shaky, but he was there, and he hadn't been drinking, but he couldn't wait for me. He was just like, "Oh, hurry up!" Like, how
he's
long is it
obviously going
gonna
into some form of
take?
withdrawal at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he said he wanted to go he was going to go home. So after I had Isaac, he left and obviously went out. I think it was only 7 in the evening though. So he obviously went to the pub and
Hmm.
I was left at the hospital. He's probably like, yay, I've got the evening to myself. And yeah, I don't really I think he drank up and down from there. And then it was strange because when he got to the point where he needed drink to stop shaking,
Hmm.
um, I couldn't understand. I was just like, well, what is it from the alcohol you want? We had no money at all at this point. We had, although he was working, I wasn't then working. He had loads of, uh, he had a lot more coming in,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Disposable
nothing to
income,
show for
but
it. By the time we paid the rent, and we were not paying the council tax because we just didn't have anything. And it was kind of really, I was just struggling quite a lot at that point, trying to. And I said to him,
so
well, what?
what do you think he was drinking an evening at that point then? Because I mean
He
that
was
is a
drinking
lot
a
of
lot of
money to be. I'm sure he
wine, beer, things like that.
so
He
just
was
a lot of alcohol every night.
yeah,
Yeah,
like a lot of beers, a lot of wine.
yeah.
Um, and then it was like, well, how can we save money? How can we pay for everything that we need to pay for when all of the money's going on the alcohol. And what's the
Hmm.
cheapest way of doing it? So it's that point he started buying vodka because he said it's not, it's the alcohol content, it's not the beer. He said, I don't care what I drink, it's just I want the actual alcohol.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, I just kind of let him, and because it saved money, we didn't have anything. So it's like, well, you go and get that, it's cheaper. So
Yeah.
got vodka.
And
And
did and again did was there no kind of question of, because in hindsight it'd be like, well, let's save money, let's not drink,
yeah, yeah.
Was there any question of like, why do you need this?
Yeah, and there was one night, and he called me. The thing is, I got pregnant quickly after having Isaac. So Isaac was
All right.
9 months old when I got pregnant again.
Oh,
So,
well.
and I had at that point when before I had Amelie, I was thinking, oh my God, I can't deal with this. But I could
Yeah.
have walked away with one child and looked after him. And I thought, oh, maybe I should do that. And I was kind of in this very torn situation where I was like, well, what's going on? And
Yeah.
and I didn't really know. I was just like naive, and I didn't know what I'm doing really. I was just kind of driving him to work. He was going in still. He was functioning
Hmm.
and working all day. He would drink a tiny bit in the morning to stabilize him, to stop him shaking for the rest of the day. Then go to work. Then I'd pick him up, and then he had this massive.
Do you think he was drinking at work?
I probably, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I think he was too scared to do that at
Yeah.
work.
I mean, obviously being a teacher, it's not,
I don't think he could have got away with it
yeah.
as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he'd come back and he would be really, really, he'd straight away go pour the drink, and then he'd be drinking vodka and Coke, vodka and Pepsi, and
Hmm.
be trying to get to that point. And then he'd be passed out by about 7:30, 8 o'clock, he'd be passed out. I'd have put the children to bed before that because they were a lot younger.
Hmm.
And then I'd be on my own for the rest of the evening, pretty much. And I
And
just,
would he just be on the sofa or up in bed or
yeah, on the
on the
sofa,
sofa, passed
usually.
out? Yeah.
But he'd usually make dinner. He'd always make dinner first. He'd come
Yeah.
back from work, make dinner for everybody.
Yeah. Spend a bit
Um,
of time with the kids.
yeah, be
Yeah.
great with everyone just because he
Like
was,
do all those things, because I'm sure at that point,
yeah,
and I hate to keep comparing to myself, but like when you've got the alcohol that you've been needing all day or whatever, once you've got that, there's that little window where you're
yeah,
actually able
all
to
right.
function. I
Yeah,
called it my sober stage. So it was like I was drinking, but I could actually function because I
yeah,
was like I got my medicine almost, as it were.
yeah,
So it sounds like that was that little window where
yeah.
he could,
That was it.
do everything and then, pass out. Yeah.
And then he could, yeah. And then and I hated weekends. I hated bank holidays and I hated holidays because obviously he would drink more when in all those times.
Yeah.
And I started looking at how I could get some help to try and go like to AA and things like that. Al-Anon.
Hmm.
I couldn't find anything. And Dan, he wasn't open to going to anything at that point. He's just like, well, he's functioning. So what's the issue? There's no issue at all. So I I tried to find Al-Anon, but all the groups were in the evening. There was nothing in the day, and there was no real support for anybody that
Yeah.
has children. I couldn't leave him. I was too scared to leave him alone with the children
Yeah.
and go out. So I just was stuck in this situation at home. So I then I just didn't really, I had no idea what to do because
Hmm.
he was a good dad. He was brilliant with them.
Yeah.
And then in his more sober moments, he was okay. And then I went to a wedding. So the one time I did go out, I went to my friend's wedding and it was overnight. And I got home at 7 o'clock in the morning because I left at 5 o'clock in the morning to get back so that I wouldn't be away from them all for too long so that he could. And I just had no help whatsoever with the children. So I had
Yeah.
no one helping me with them being younger. My mum was working 24/7. My dad was like, he was working, and
Hmm.
I didn't really tell my dad really what was going on.
And
I don't think he really told anyone,
what about
actually.
Dan's mum? Was she around?
They were totally unaware of what was going on at
Right.
all. No, they were just in Basildon. They lived an hour away from us and they
Ah,
didn't have
okay. So
any idea what was happening.
outside, out of mind. Yeah.
Occasionally had the children. when we went out to Dan's friends or something, they'd have them.
Hmm.
But I didn't, I just literally was on my own. So
And talking about kids, sorry to just go back. What was going on with his adopted kid? Was it Ollie, was it?
Ollie, yeah. So we had Ollie still every other
Yeah.
weekend.
Oh,
We
right. Okay. So that was still going on. Yeah.
yeah, we had Ollie
Yeah.
um, until I think the children were we got we'd moved. We were had gone to Paper Mill Lane, so we'd moved again. We
Hmm.
decided to move again because that would be a good idea. Because that was like, oh, well, let's have another change to see if we can make everything better.
Well, it's interesting, Lucy, because I don't know how how much you know about like kind of fellowship and AA ways. Because I did spend a lot of time with NA Narcotics Anonymous, and they call it geographicals. I used to move around a lot because I was like, right, fresh start. I'm gonna
Yeah,
make a new
yeah,
change, but the problem was that I was always there, and I
yeah.
hadn't made any changes. So, yeah, it sounds a bit like that. And did you have any conversations with Ollie's mum? Did you have a relationship
No,
with her?
nothing at all. I had
Nothing
no
at
idea of
all.
her phone number. I'd never met her before.
Mm.
Actually, I don't, I still haven't met her to this day.
To be
But I have,
interesting to kind
I
of
have met
hear.
I have met Ollie's family.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we lost contact with Ollie at one point. So I think Ollie must have been about 13 and he
yeah,
decided he didn't want to come to ours anymore.
yeah.
And we, so Isaac and Amelie must have been like six. Isaac might have been six-ish and
Hmm.
Amelie would have been only about four maybe. And I think Ollie just found it too much. He'd found out by that point. So it wasn't long before then, probably a year before. So he was probably about 11 when he found out that Dan wasn't his real dad. And that must have
Yeah,
been hard. And nobody had told him. And then
yeah.
somebody accidentally told him. So
Oh,
he had found out like, and I was the one looking after Ollie all the time when he came to ours, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing with this older child. And Dan sort of like took him out in the garden and played football with him and things, and I just left him with Dan.
hmm.
Really think about it, and there was some times where Dan would be passed out, and so we'd
Hmm.
watch film. I just didn't know what to do. Well, we'd take him out to the park, and
Which I suppose if he finds out that this guy's not his real father, and when he comes to see him, he's either a bit drunk or passing out, he's kind
yeah,
of like, why am
I
I,
won't bother going there.
why did I
Then yeah,
bother going?
so
Yeah.
So then he stopped coming. Dan had a
Mm.
massive meltdown about that and was crying and really upset about it, but never told me anything about why, just, oh, he doesn't want to come and that was that. So I was like, oh, okay. And we
You just got
moved
to take
on.
it as gospel. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
so
He's made his
I had no
choice.
idea.
Yeah.
And then um so that was when he must have been so 13-ish. And then Dan ended up we moved house to this other house to try and sort things out.
Hmm.
To start again. And it was nice, but then I think we were only there actually a year and the
Hmm.
house we were renting it. It was full of mold and it was horrible in a way. It was so nice on the outside, it was so lovely. And the school was lovely that Isaac had started going to and Amelie
Yeah.
into nursery and it was around the corner, but it wasn't a I said we've got to move. And
Yeah.
Dan
You
did,
can't live
oh,
with mold. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, I can't live here. And the agency that we were renting from was horrible. So they told us it was our fault. The windows aren't open enough. We've driven past three times, it's not open. They were horrible. They just didn't get it. So I said we're moving,
Hmm.
and then I got a phone call from his work. He'd had a massive meltdown at work. He'd had a big like breakdown and he was outside and he'd come out, he just walked out of work. So I went and rescued him, got him a car, went over, picked him up and took him back home.
Hmm.
And he was crying and he was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is I I am alcoholic. I need help. I need like and at that point I was like, oh, okay. And then
What had been the catalyst for that at work? Why?
no,
Don't know.
I don't know. I think he must have just got through. Maybe somebody said something, but I don't know because he
Yeah.
never said.
They might
And
have smelt something on his breath or something like that.
somebody
Or
must have said maybe something, and that's why he's walked out. So
yeah.
then I took him back home, and he's like, I'm going to resign. I said, don't resign. You don't do that. Like, take the time off work. And then
Yeah.
I didn't. He resigned. He literally quit, and he sent a message, I'm not coming back. And so that was the worst thing he could have done, because obviously all the money just
Yeah.
instantly stops. There was no help, no support, and I knew he could have stayed on sick pay for nearly a
Of
year. But
course. I mean, they've got due diligence with mental
yeah,
health issues, all
he
of
didn't do
this. It's,
it.
yeah, I mean,
So I was like, we do. I rang the benefit system, everything like that, tried to get, and they said, no, you're earning too much because he was on too much. So until you've got absolutely nothing, like, come back to us, even though we had nothing. So
and I think if you quit a job, it's like 13 weeks or
yeah,
something
he wasn't
ridiculous
entitled
until
to
you can
anything.
claim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing. So I said, well, now we have to move. There's no way we can live here and pay
Yeah.
2,000 a month, or I don't know, 1,000 something. So I said, we've got to move. Um, and then I think it just got too much. He got worse and worse. He spiraled down from there because he started drinking more and more and more when he
Yeah.
wasn't working. I don't know how. Literally no idea how he got money. He would ask his mum for money. He'd ask all different people in his life who had come across over the years. He even messaged some girls saying, "Oh, Lucy's left me, and I've just got the children. I'm on my own.
Oh,
I've got no money, and I really want to take them out for the weekend, but I can't." So he played on all their emotions, and they transferred money to our
yeah.
joint account. So I was like, "Why have we got money in? What is
Yeah.
this?" And
And how much are we talking?
that
Again,
was like
like,
£50 here and there, kind of.
yeah, see, I would borrow off friends, but it would be like, we're talking like 15, £20 at a time. So I could go and get
Yeah, it
vodka.
was that kind of thing.
And then I'd get my universal credit, or if I was working, I'd get some money and then pay them back. But a lot of times, I didn't. And then they would just say, no, you're not having it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And
He exhausted every single option. And then
yeah.
it was his mum, and can you transfer money over? And or his dad, if he could get, he would just try anything and
But
everyone.
but the money's going into the joint bank account, but then
Yeah,
he's just
I
he's
didn't
just
always
draining it
know
because he's
that.
going,
I'd look at the statement at the end of the month because it would come through the post and go, what the heck? Who is this?
yeah, and where's it gone?
Yeah, and he'd just go out and drink, and then he would still be cooking dinner.
Hmm.
But there was these episodes of, so he was cooking dinner, but he was so drunk he left the gas on, and the light had gone off on the gas, and it was the flame. So the flame had gone out, but the gas was still on. And
Yeah.
I was panicking, like, we need to turn the oven off. And I leant over to turn the oven off. And he shouted at me, "No, I know what I'm doing. I'm cooking, you know." And he'd given the children their dinner, and they were sat in the lounge, and they had to bowl each of. They remember that point, even though Amelie was 4. Like,
Yeah.
no, she must have been 5 or 6 at that point. Five, and Isaac, and maybe he was 7 because we moved over. So they were in the lounge, sitting down, having this food. And Dan and me were in the kitchen. Dan was arguing with me. I was trying to turn the oven off, and he's trying to stop me turning it off. And the gas is going. I was just like, "Ah!" And
Yeah.
I think I pushed, like, through and turned it off. And so then he said, because I said I'm leaving. So, and he went, got my car keys. He said, "You're not leaving because I can't drive. You're not allowed to drive." He was so irrational at that point.
Yeah.
I'm going. So I kind of um uh so he threw my car key in the hedge, so I couldn't actually find it or anything. So I took the children, and they were like, "What about our dinner?" And we just went. We left and went to a neighbour's house. Well, one of my friends lives nearby,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she said, "Call one of your family and get them to pick you up." Because this is so. I called. I think called my dad, and that's the first time my dad had known anything about what was going on exactly. And he came with a big truck, took a load of stuff, said, you're moving in with me."
Hmm.
So me and the children went to live with my dad for probably 4 months.
Right.
And Dan ended up, because we had to give the house back.
Yeah, because he couldn't afford to.
They didn't give our deposit back or anything, just literally went,
Mm.
"So you've given the house back." And he had a month to get out, and he didn't get out. He just,
Squatted.
yeah, social services were involved at that point because he went to the school to try and pick them up, and I wasn't speaking to him. I was
I was going
trying
to say, so
to
you hadn't
get
had
everything
contacts.
off. I tried to cut everything off, and I
Uh-huh.
said, "Don't let him pick them up from the school." And then they rang me. They said he's rang us and he's told us they've got a dentist appointment, but he's got parental rights, so he's coming to get them.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. So I went up. and then they rang me back. They said we won't be releasing them to him. He's staggering up the road to the
Oh.
school, and he's in the road. We can see he's drunk from quite a way. And
Hmm.
so I said, "What do you want me to do?" And they said, "Call the police." So I ended up having to call the police. They picked him up from the school, and
Hmm.
it was just all at the time where everybody's leaving school. I was like, "Oh my God!" And everyone, it was horrible because I just got then oh, it's just all
Yeah, yeah, it's embarrassing, you've got all these other mums
yeah.
and dads
It's
looking
just
at
rock
you, and
climbing. So
yeah,
then they took him back to the house. They sat in the car with him. He never knew that I called the police because I was told to do. But
yeah.
they sat in the car and said, "You can't pick the children up in that state, and you need to." So but they were lovely to him, and he sat in the car with them for ages. Then it got to giving the keys back to, and so the only option was he went out on the street. And again, I was, I'm not, he's not going to live on the street.
Hmm.
Um, there's got to be something available for him. And I
Yeah.
just couldn't find anything available. So I ended up paying for him to live in different hostels and things, and they were horrendous. Just horrible. He was just not working then.
Was he how long was he out of work at this point?
So that was so 2008. 2014, it must have been, maybe 2014. He had done that, so 15. Then probably he'd been out of work for only 6 months-ish
Hmm.
at that
But
point, because I don't think it was long, because
no,
she had to give the flat back. And
and
he,
was he at this point, he's obviously lost you and the kids,
I
he's
think
lost
he
his
was,
place to live.
yeah,
Was he saying, I have a problem at this point?
yeah, he
Yeah,
was, but
right.
he had nowhere to live. I took him back to the doctors and they put him on antidepressants. I think that was it.
Hmm.
They told him about AA, but he didn't.
No.
Um, he hadn't got any intention of going anywhere. Like then, my mum and me paid for him to stay in a lot of different places, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, there was just
And were you
no.
giving him money for alcohol at this point, or was he just
No,
finding it?
he was finding it. He
Yeah,
was finding it, and I was telling people not to give it to him.
yeah,
People did. So
yeah, yeah.
then, and he was in these horrible places, and I half of them I'd take him to them and think, oh, I don't want to leave him in here, but he was just in a complete state, and he wasn't good.
Hmm.
Then, and then, oh yeah, then I found Turning Point, I think it was.
Oh
So that
yeah.
was brilliant. So we went there, and he went there and said, I need some help. And they actually found him accommodation in a dry, well, no, it wasn't a dry house, it was a house with other addicts, basically.
Yeah.
But he
Like
had
a
somewhere to
halfway
live.
house type thing.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he's got a room, he's got somewhere
yeah,
to live, and we don't have to pay for accommodation every night again.
yeah.
We went on for 2 weeks there and trying to find him somewhere then. And he moved into this house with, I think there was like, I think it was three of them were alcoholic, and then two or three must have been, they were drug addicts. So they were all in the house together.
And all in active addiction.
Active addiction, all of them. Yeah, it was insane. It was.
It's insane, isn't it?
But at
Yeah.
that exact point, I took him in. We met this bloke called Phil, who he was alcoholic,
Yeah.
and his wife had just his wife was there and she had kicked him out. He was living on his daughter's sofa at that point. He was a little bit older than
Hmm.
Dan, and he'd been to rehab and everything, and but hadn't he'd obviously then gone back to drinking.
Hmm.
um, and his wife and me started talking to each other. It was the first time I'd met somebody else in that situation.
Yeah, because you hadn't had any success with Al-Anon or anything like
No,
that,
I
and
hadn't
so
done
this was the
any of
first
it.
time, almost like a
Yeah.
kindred spirit. Yeah,
Yeah, so it was really nice. Karina, she was
yeah.
lovely, and we talked, and Phil was nice. Phil and Dan got on really well, and
Hmm.
then Richie, who was in there, he was alcoholic as well. And I don't know much about him, but he was there, and they were friends. And then there was There was two, and he made friends with the other addicts as well, but they never seemed to cross over. So the drugs, although
Mm,
the drug addicts, they were drinking alcohol.
yeah.
I think Richie tried different stuff, but mostly alcohol. And so they had this kind of party house that was insane. And we were just like, right. And they were all helping each other out. They were all
Yeah.
buying it for each other. They were all,
Yeah. Whoever had some money that week or whatever,
yeah,
universal
they got
credit
a
or
lot of
whatever.
them.
And so Dan wasn't ever thinking like I'm gonna try, and I'm guessing it was heroin that or crack or
Yeah,
something
they
like
all had
that.
different stuff, but he
Yeah.
never tried it. They offered
Yeah.
it to him, but I think he was a bit scared to try any of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He's like, nah. And he, until that point, I think he was a bit like he um he was working when he was teaching, he came across like he was better than other people when he wasn't, and he realized a lot of stuff. He learned a hell of a lot being there. And
Hmm.
then he was nicer in a way. But
What
he
was
also,
Dan about? 32 at this point? 32, 33 maybe, or
yeah, yeah, so he must have been, I'm trying to think how old he was when he went to, yeah, maybe 30, maybe 32, 33.
yeah.
So 33 or 34 maybe.
A
He,
young man to be in this situation, let's
yeah,
be honest. Yeah.
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 Um, then he did, it was all a bit crazy and I was like, I've got to move out of my dad's house. I can't be here long. I've got to
Mm.
get out, got to find somewhere else. So I found a flat and I rented the flat.
Hmm.
And I went, and it was so expensive, and I literally everything went on that um flat.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I was just, I don't know, I literally can't remember all of that time, but I was in this flat it was quite nice. And I
Yeah.
had to take my son out of his school into another one, but he hated it, and
But
so
how was it for you? Because obviously, Dan's in that kind of halfway house or whatever, and I mean, I'm sure in the back of your mind you're still worrying about him, but at
he
least
was
at
down the road
home,
from me as well. He
yeah,
lived down the road from me. So
yeah,
social services came there. They were heavily involved at that point.
yeah.
They
But
were
I
like,
guess you had a bit of freedom because he's not
yeah,
living under your roof and you're
a
kind of
bit, yeah,
able to kind of just go, I don't have to worry
yeah.
about whether he's fallen
Until
asleep. Yeah.
he's turned up at the house and he'd be like,
Right,
"Oh,
right.
I want to see the children. I want this. I want that." Anyway,
Whilst drunk, yeah.
yeah, this social worker who was so young and she just hadn't got a clue at
Right.
all. And she really, and she was coming in telling me one thing and telling him another. And
Oh.
I was like, what are you? I didn't really realize until later on, but she'd go into his place, sit on the edge of his bed, talk to him
Hmm.
in his bedroom with the door shut, and then come to me and say that because he's alcoholic, it's too dangerous to be around the children. And yet I was like, right? And so he would manipulate her, and so then it got to a point where she was going to say basically, "Oh, I think we should go to child protection, and
Hmm.
because you're clothing them, you're dressing them, um, but I think there's an issue." And it was really weird. And my dad and my mum came over, and we had a meeting with her, and
Yeah.
it got too much, and I was just like, what the hell's going on? And she was just so she then came up with this idea, right? Dan could see the children when he's not drinking. So then she also said to Dan, I tell you what, when you see the children, don't drink anything at all. Meet them in an open place like a park. So he did. So that is exactly he did everything he was told to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he wants to see
Still,
you and the kids,
still
yeah.
loved him, still wanted him to be okay, still
Of course he did.
desperate for
Yeah.
him to get
Because
better.
you know the real Dan. You know the
Yeah,
the, the non-drinking Dan. You've seen
yeah,
it and you want that back. And you know
yeah,
that all he needs to do is stop drinking.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but I didn't know at that point that if you didn't drink and you're alcoholic, you're likely to fit. And nor did this social worker who told him to just stop. So we got to the park and to meet him, put the children in
Yeah.
the car, went to this park nearby. Dan turned up and we were there for about a half an hour to an hour, playing on all the stuff. And he said to me, I just don't feel right. And I was like, and it was because he was sober, but
Hmm.
he was shaking, but not massively. He'd kind of gone through that. And he suddenly flew backwards and he hit the slide. and he had the biggest fit. I'd never seen a fit, so it was horrendous. He was just
Yeah.
literally foaming at the mouth. Everything was shaking, and and I was just in panic. I couldn't even unlock my phone to ring the ambulance.
Oh
And
God.
luckily, the other people in the park all rushed over. Isaac and Amelie are like, "What's Daddy doing?"
Yeah.
And so somebody came over and said, "Do you want me to take your children with my children to play over here?" I said, "Yes, please." And
Yeah.
then somebody was on the phone to the ambulance, and they arrived, and then he was unconscious in the back of this ambulance, and I had no idea. I rang his mum and said, "He's uh, I don't know what's going on. He's unconscious. He's like, I don't know what's happened,
Yeah.
but
I
I'm
mean,
not going to go into
were
it," she
you even
said.
aware it was a seizure at that point, or
Yeah, I think I was then, because then the ambulance, so they'd come and they'd said he was having a fit, and it's
yeah.
obviously alcohol withdrawal. So I didn't know that, because I had to say to them in front of everyone that he's alcoholic. And
Mhm.
yeah, so they said, "Has he drank today?" I said no, and then it was like, "Oh, that must be it." So they took him, and then I went up to the hospital, and I he'd come round and everything, and he was on the drips and on the detox medication and
Librium, yeah, yeah.
stuff. But he had shattered his whole hip and his down to his knee,
Oh
had
God.
broken because he had osteopenia, I think, osteoporosis at that point, because the alcohol had eaten away his bones. So he
At that age. Wow.
he was 34,
Yeah.
and so yeah, he'd literally 16, 17, 22. Okay, so 35, 36. So he must have been 35, because yeah, it was 2016.
It's
And
just horrifying how many parts of the body that alcohol affects, isn't it?
yeah,
You
I
know, I
was
mean,
quite
I didn't
amazed.
know
I was like,
about that
really?
until I heard it,
Um,
you on Date Sober Dave's podcast, and I was like, oh, really? Because I like when I was drinking, and I
right.
gave up when I was 40, I didn't know half of the things that I knew smoking was bad. I didn't know drinking was bad.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
didn't know that smoking, just no, drinking was worse than any other drug. Like it's,
yeah.
and how many more people it kills
Oh,
than
without a doubt, yeah. It's
drugs.
all the illegal drugs put together is not even half of what alcohol kills.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it's like, okay, you can drink as much as you like, but the amount of stuff it affects, it's just,
Yeah, just make sure you drink responsibly. That's what they say,
yeah,
and
don't worry
that's
about it.
it.
Just
Don't worry
drink a
about
little
it.
bit, you'll be fine. But they don't tell you that, yeah,
No.
that it
And
eats
so did
away.
he, sorry, was it osteoporosis or
Yeah, it
osteopor?
was osteopenia, I think they said at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And did he, was that when they found out that he had that when obviously he
yeah,
got into
yeah.
hospital at that point?
They're like,
Right.
"Well, we don't know why your hip shattered." Like everything, literally, they had to. They didn't operate because he was alcoholic. They
Hmm.
said, they sent him home, and he couldn't walk. So he came back. He came out of hospital on morphine. They gave him high doses of morphine, and so he luckily he didn't drink while on the morphine. But it was like
Yeah.
he's been detoxed. He's out with this broken hip and having morphine, and he couldn't get up the stairs where he lived in this dry house, this flat that's with all the others.
Yeah.
Um, so he came to mine,
Right.
because he wasn't drinking. So at that point, then he's not a risk, because social services are like, "Oh, okay."
And
So
had
then,
anything been said to that social worker that had told him to stop drinking that day?
no,
No.
not at that point. So
Okay.
then it went 6 weeks, I think I'm sure it's the summer holidays. Um, and then, and of him getting worse and worse and worse. He couldn't get up my stairs, so he was in the lounge.
Hmm.
And then he was weeing into a jug because he literally had nowhere to go. And we hadn't, so I rang the 111 service and I said, "This is ridiculous. He
Yeah.
can't even get up the stairs. I don't know." So they said,
You need help. Yeah, with
so
him.
they said,
Yeah.
"We'll send a slow ambulance." They did. The ambulance arrived, took him to hospital, and they said, "Well, we'll replace your hip if you stop drinking. If you promise us you are never going to drink again, we'll replace your hip." So
Hmm.
he obviously, he was in agony, even on the morphine. He was like, "I'll never drink again. I'll
Yeah.
never ever." So they said, "Right, we'll do it." So they did. They did the operation. And I went in the next day, and he was violently shaking, like really, really shaking, but unconscious.
Hmm.
And I said, he looks like he's having a fit. What's going on? Like they said to me, he has high anxiety, and it's so
Oh,
deeply built in him. Even while he's unconscious, he is shaking through anxiety. And it's
oh,
like, is that a thing? And I was like, oh. And I think that's why he drank, because
yeah.
he didn't, that anxiety was so severe. He just couldn't deal with it. And then
Wow.
it made me, I was thinking about all the, yeah, a lot of
This
stuff.
is this is all making sense why he's been
Yeah,
drinking, because the anxiety of life was obviously too
so hard.
much.
Yeah.
And but like if you know, in hindsight's a great thing, but like, if do you think he was even aware of that, or it was a
No, not
conscious
100%.
anxiety?
No, that was so strange. And I thought,
Yeah,
see, and so they said, all right, we'll just sort they sorted him out.
yeah.
And then I can't remember, I think he
So
came out.
had he not drank since like the
Well, that
part,
would be,
the
yeah, since the
morphine,
fit.
and
Yeah.
then how long until
He
he
was on
got the
morphine, obviously, at that point, so he
yeah.
didn't need the alcohol.
So
He
how long
came
was that period between that and then getting the new hip that he
6 weeks.
was 6
6
weeks?
weeks. Mm,
So he didn't drink for 6 weeks, right?
nothing
Okay.
at all. And then he came out, he'd had the hip operation and come off the morphine slowly as he got better,
Mm-hmm.
healing really, really well. And they say he healed a lot quicker because he was younger
Yeah,
than
well,
a
yeah, yeah.
person would. So he was walking quicker. He was okay.
Yeah.
And then he got a job after that in the YMCA, doing some stuff with like helping mentoring and stuff with
I'm back
young.
living with you full time then at this point,
He
yeah.
was not, he was at the flat, but at that point they moved him to another place. So he was in a dry house type,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, actual dry house. And that
Good.
was good. That was so he was with some other people that
They were sober, yeah.
yeah. And then I moved house, I think. Oh no, I didn't. I did move. It was the end of 2016. He kept fitting, and he wouldn't. He just he was having the worst fits because for some reason somehow that had started off a chain of what's called alcoholic induced seizures, which were the next thing that he then experienced. So
Even
and
though he was sober at this point,
he was
yeah.
sober. If he drank, then I think he had drank a little bit, then he
Right.
didn't drink. So he drank for, say, a night. The
Mm-hmm.
next day he would fit without the alcohol. So it was like a kind of cycle
Like an
of,
acute onset of it, yeah.
yeah. And then he would fit through the night just randomly. But they were okay. They were just little, I could kind of deal with them. And then
Yeah, but you still shouldn't have to be dealing with this.
yeah,
It's crazy, isn't it?
then in the house that he was at, Richie died. He was found in his bedroom. He was in
Oh,
his room 3 days and on his till they found out he was dead.
oh God.
So they took him. Um, Phil had convinced Dan to go to AA with him and
Hmm.
he started going to AA, which is amazing.
Good, yeah, yeah,
He
absolutely.
went to AA. I went with him a couple of times. And then we went to Al-Anon AA conference meeting together.
Hmm.
So a load of so he talked about alcohol and I talked about the other side of that, and we did the talk together.
Yeah.
But I think he was doing quite well, but he had started drinking again, like seeping. It was coming back in, so that wasn't good. And then he had another massive fit. We were in the car. We gone to this talk together. Um, it was like a mental health thing.
Hmm.
You had gone to this training course, and he said he was just shaking. So at that, I said, "We need to buy um, need to buy vodka to stop him shaking." And we're terrified he was going to fit. So
Hmm.
we did do that. And went in, bought some vodka for him, half the bottle, but he didn't drink. He drank a tiny sip. He's like, I can't drink it. I literally physically feel sick trying to drink this to stop me fitting. So he didn't. And then he yeah, he had another fit. He had to, and his heart practically stopped. And they got him into hospital and saved his life again.
Hmm.
And then they said, basically, I was like, that's how bad you have to be to go to rehab. Like, so then, Turning Point, they managed to get him from there into rehab, and he
Yeah.
went in 2016 to rehab, and that was brilliant. Um,
Yeah. How long was it for?
um, it was only 3 months over
Okay.
Christmas, and in that time, I moved house um,
Yeah.
to a lot further away. We got rid of this social worker. He was just horrendous. Um,
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
literally, I had a fresh start. I was like, right, that's it. And I said, you have this chance. You go to rehab. You
Yeah.
get sorted out. Then you can come and live with us. If you don't, you're not living with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that and so he went to rehab. It was the best, definitely the best thing he'd done. They were brilliant. The rehab centre, and like it was in Portsmouth, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's a long way from us, and it was over Christmas and his birthday. So
Right.
yeah, he
Did you
and
see him at all when he was in there, or was it just?
yeah, we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
After he wasn't allowed to phone for 2 weeks, and then
Right.
he would ring at night. He would ring in the evening, talk to us. Then we went up a couple of times, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we went Christmas. I think it was Boxing Day we went.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then that was good. He was normal, and he was doing this whole. He liked that structure
Yeah.
and routine every day of doing different things. He'd write to me every day,
Mm.
send letters back from what he was doing, and he was talking to Phil quite a lot, who he was living with before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Phil was drinking, but he'd cut down. And it was like a don't know if, but Phil had stomach cancer because of the alcohol, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to him, and he was writing letters, and he'd done all sorts of stuff for rehab. It was really funny. Dan's written tons about it in his book, because Dan started writing a book then about his life and everything.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was amazing. It was really funny. Then yeah, came out. He was a lot better. He was doing okay. He had done a lot of damage, obviously, to his body through all the
Yeah.
alcohol and everything. Came out. He was okay for um not long, actually. When he came out, he was put in this another dry house type thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he started drinking about 4 days later. He went straight back to drinking vodka. So he needed longer at rehab, but
Yeah.
it was like he was determined to get through it and get home. That so he could prove a point that he'd done it and got home. He had his assessment for his hip and everything, and they said,
Mm.
oh, and when they found out he was drinking, they were like really angry, and but then I think it wasn't it was 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20. Don't know what happened there. Loads of stuff, I guess, happened in those
So
years.
in, but he
He
was
was
back home, kind of with
he was
you.
back with me, back in and out of different places through Turning Point, um, going to AA, and he was kind of up and down.
Yeah.
His mental health was not great,
Yeah.
and and then Phil died
Oh.
in 2022. So 2000, so 2019, Phil died.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was horrible. We were away in Spain, and he got a phone call from his wife. So he had gone in, and he'd aspiration pneumonia. They said because of the stomach cancer.
Cancer. Yeah.
The cancer, they cleared it, but it was after that. So he
Yeah.
had a tube down his throat and thing, and it was horrible. And Dan really struggled with that and
Yeah.
came
I
back,
bet.
went to the funeral, and Dan carried his coffin with a couple of other people. And Dan, Phil's wife, said, "You will be next if you do not stop drinking." And he was like, "Yeah, I think, yeah." But obviously, he was kind of up and down. Then COVID happened,
Mm.
which was really random because Dan stopped drinking in
Mm.
COVID. Don't know quite why. He'd gone back into hospital again because he had so many things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They detoxed him nearly every month at one point. Then
Uh,
then COVID had hit, and he had stopped drinking, and he started teaching the children. So he was teaching them. So
oh wow.
he came to us. He moved in with us at that point, and he was teaching the children everything, and
Yeah.
it was good. It was kind of weird because everyone else had gone.
Everyone
But
else was
it
drinking.
was
I mean,
like,
I got sober in COVID, but you know, it was I was drinking for the first kind of half of it, and then I got sober.
yeah,
But it was like it was a weird time. A lot of people started drinking heavily, but
Yeah.
yeah, but he decided to kind of knock it on the
It's
head.
like the opposite way around. When everyone else is drinking now,
Yeah.
so I'm giving up.
I mean, it might have been, was he still, I suppose was he hiding alcohol at this point as well, or just blatant with
Not at
it?
that point. He
Yeah.
came out. I think it had made him so ill. He was just like, I just don't.
Yeah.
He didn't physically did not want it. He was like, I just don't want it.
I don't know how I would have got round my hiding of alcohol had I still been with my ex-partner during COVID. Because I'd
Yeah.
spent time in rehab and then literally 4 days after being in rehab, lockdown started.
Mhm.
So when I came out, I was sober for a short period of time, but then I was on my own, so I was kind of could just
Yeah.
go to the shop and buy booze. But to smuggle it in when we were doing, when you had to go in queue for the
Yeah, well,
shops
you
and
could get
like
it
two
delivered to
meters
your door
apart.
then. It started
Well,
coming.
yeah, yeah. I missed that one completely. I didn't know about the delivery to door till
My
way
dad
later.
discovered Amazon at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah, but I could see everything that was happening and
Hmm.
he wasn't lying to me anymore. And that was the massive thing.
Yeah,
He told me every single thing that was going on.
yeah.
He literally would talk about everything. We'd watch tons of stuff together and sit in the evenings binge watching tons of series of stuff on Netflix and
And it
it was
sounded like he was trying to get better at
yeah, and
this
the whole
point.
world had
Yeah,
gone crazy and he was like he had a purpose so he he didn't have to leave the house
yeah,
and he
yeah.
could be okay in himself because he was just around us.
Hmm.
He was actually really good. And then obviously the lockdowns went on and on and on and on. And I think by then he relapsed in 20, I don't know when that was. It was kind of towards the end of the lockdowns, really.
It's still a kind of unfathomable charted time, isn't it? Was it
Yeah,
2021? I
yeah,
think when
2021. And
there was a few little circuit
uh,
breakers or whatever they called
but he
them.
was so ill that
Yeah.
I had started looking after him. At this point, he actually couldn't really walk upstairs. His other leg was hurting.
Oh God.
He um he couldn't really like go to the shops. He couldn't do a lot, and he was just in this middle place where he just didn't. He was in and out of hospital. He had fits after fit. I called the ambulance so many times.
Yeah.
Every time he fitted, he depending on what they were like, he had he had a stroke when when they had I think it was the eat out to help out thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
We ended up calling the ambulance out there because he was in, and I was like, he didn't look right. His speech went slurred. He ended up, so we called the ambulance. They came out, took him in. He had a stroke there. That was it was really strange. Just all sorts of stuff just was going wrong, and they had mentioned his liver. Oh well, it might be that that's causing an issue. That he
Hmm.
had when he was in the bathroom and he started being sick and it was blood, literally pure blood coming up. And I got to call the ambulance again. He was in kidney failure.
Oh God.
Then, so he was literally every month he was in hospital
Yeah. Yeah.
throughout, I think, 2021. And then in the end of 21, and they said about his liver and they said, you can't, you're not basically he decided he wasn't going to hospital again. That's it. I'm never going again. I've had enough of going. Next time something happens, don't call an ambulance. So, but at this point he couldn't wash or dress himself really. He could barely move. He couldn't bend down to put his socks on and things. So, and I was begging social services for help because I
Hmm.
was like, I can't do this and I need help with him to get him in. He can't get in the bath. He can't
Yeah.
get upstairs. He needs accommodation where we can look after him because I just
Yeah.
couldn't. So they said, well, we can um, he went out. They said we can give him some temporary accommodation. It was horrendous. I took him there. It's like he's not staying here. No way. And
No.
they were horrible places. They were like, yeah, just horrendous. And there was
Hmm.
one I took him to, and they said to me, "Oh, don't worry, leave him with us. He'll be fine." And I was thinking, no, you won't, because you don't know what's wrong with him. Like,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
lady said, "Oh, yeah, he'll be all right." And I couldn't get hold of him and I knew something wasn't right, and they wouldn't let me in because they were like, "We'll look after him." I had to get his friend to come all the way from London and go in, and he went in and called the ambulance, and luckily the ambulance came and took him in, and he
Yeah.
was in kidney failure then. So luckily they saved him, and he was. out there. I said, "No, he can't go anywhere other than," and eventually they decided they would give him somewhere that was a ground floor flat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lovely, but it
Oh,
was about 40 minutes from the house, so a bit
oh
annoying.
God.
So he went there, and we stayed there with him. And then I'd be back forward at least twice a day, and
Mm.
washing and dressing him. And then he got stuck in the bath, and the ambulance came out, took him out. But he's like, "I'm not going in. I'm not going to hospital. Done this to myself. It's all my fault. I'm not going to get any help. I'm not going." And he just absolutely refused. So every ambulance that came to the house, they said, "Well, you're." So I convinced him to go to the doctors on the 16th of August. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Well, that's what's for annoying is that the doctors, when I rang them, I said, "Oh, can you come to the house? Can you help me?" And they said, "No, we can't do that, but we can offer an appointment on the 16th, which was 2 weeks away from."
Right.
And I said, "But he needs it now. He needs to be seen now." And
Yeah.
they wouldn't. So Dan said, "Well, I'll take that appointment, but that's it. I'm not going to hospital." So okay. And he just started turning yellow, more and more yellow. Um, and then the 16th came, and I was just waiting on that appointment to get him in the car. And he couldn't walk by then, barely walk. We borrowed a Zimmer frame off somebody so that he could get. So I got him into the car, drove him to the doctors, and they took one look at him, went through everything, and said, you need to go to hospital now."
Mm-hmm.
And he was still like, "I'm not going." I said, "You've got to go. You have to go." And me and this doctor sat with him saying, "You've got to go to hospital because you're going to die if you don't."
Yeah.
And he was in decompensated liver failure, is what they wrote on the thing. So I didn't really know exactly what that meant. I knew he had to go to hospital. He had turned a luminous yellow. It was like really weird yellow.
Yeah.
So we'll go to hospital. He he was sat there saying no, he's crying. I started crying. I said, "The problem is, Dan, if we come into the flat and find you dead, one of the children will find you dead.
Mm.
And what do you think? Do you think that's fair?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing that he agreed, "Okay, I'll go to hospital." And they said, "There's a 4 hour wait for an ambulance, so we can't get him an ambulance." And I was like,
It's not
"Right."
one thing, it's the other, isn't it? Yeah.
I said, "Well, I'll shall I just drive? I'll drive him to the hospital." And they said to me, "Take this letter." They'd written everything out there, and they said,
Yeah.
"Take him straight there." And then Dan, luckily, he agreed. He said, "Do it before I change my mind." So I literally drove in silence to this hospital, and I was just like, "Oh, there's two hospitals." I was at the crossroad. Which one do I go to? Got got to this hospital, and I wheeled him from the car park. Went and got a wheelchair. I don't know why I didn't park outside the hospital.
Mm.
It made sense. Wheeled him up this hill, and it was so heavy. And I thought, this is going to be the last time I do this. I know
Mm.
he's not coming out. But so I got him in, and then like, there was so many people. It was like rammed.
Yeah.
And they said, but luckily they came over. They said, "Being that colour gets you fast tracked." And I gave them the letter, and they literally just put straight into resus and something. So they put him straight on a drip, and then put him on a heart monitor and things to. And it was silent. I was like, "Why is it so silent?" And they said, "Because all the monitors go directly to the doctors. He monitored 24/7 because he's in critical. Um,
Right.
he's in what's it called? The other one. He's
I
in
I see you.
yeah. So so I said, "Okay," and it was just quiet, and he was upset, and I said, "I'm not going to leave you. We'll stay here the whole time," because that was his biggest fear, that I was just going to leave him there.
Mm-hmm.
"No, I'll stay with you." Mum had the children, and I stayed up there with him for a long time. Then he got moved. He was on the cardiac ward for quite a while, a week. He was on the cardiac ward.
Mm-hmm.
I came and went each day. He was incontinent. He was like, everything was quite wrong by that point, but not. They said to me, "Oh, he's getting a lot better."
Mm.
And they said, "So we can move him off the cardiac ward. His heart's all right now."
Mm-hmm.
And put him on a gastro ward because they said he possibly got stomach cancer. The markers were showing different things that obviously I was like, "Right, that's all right, fine."
Yeah.
We go down there, we go to gastro ward, but he was too ill to have the investigations. So they said, "We need to get him stable." And so they did get him stable. And then it hit the bank holiday weekend, so it was September. Um, and he was a week. He was only a week in gastro, and I hated that ward. I was like, "I'm not sure this is quite right." I went in, and it was in the morning. They said you can't come in because you visiting's not till 2,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So I assumed he was okay because obviously I was just being turned away anyway.
Yeah.
So I went in, and then he still couldn't wash or dress himself or anything. And he sat down. He said he needed the toilet, but he was constantly, I need to get on the commode. So I was putting him on the commode, picking him up back onto the bed, back onto the commode. Then he rang the buzzer, and I said, I'm going to get a nurse to do it because you've just done it too much. There's no, you shouldn't have to do this. And this nurse came. She said, yeah, what? I was like, oh, that's nice.
Wow.
And
Charming.
he looked at
Yeah.
me and went, he said, I just need some help. She said, why can't you wipe your own bum? And
Oh,
I went, well, obviously not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be pressing the buzzer. Like, and she's like, oh, just she was horrible. I was just like, what is
yeah.
going on? Why are you treating him like this? Like, and it was that I really hated that kind of. So some of the nurses were lovely, but then
And do you think that was because of
I don't
his
know,
situation?
alcoholic.
Because alcoholic, yeah.
I had he said to me, "Oh God, it's the bank holiday weekend. There's not going to be staff on." And I was like, "Yeah, we hated both of us hate bank holiday weekends, especially in hospital.
Yeah.
There's no staff." So he
And you'd spent a lot of bank holidays in and out, and
yeah,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
and so but the thing was, it was the bank holiday Monday. It got to the Sunday. He was getting more and more like angry, and it
Mm.
was the toxins obviously building up, but we didn't know that at that point. He was swelling up. His legs had started to swell up. And I said, why is his legs like twice the size they were? And they said, oh, it's the edema from, it's the liver obviously isn't like flushing it.
Mm.
So then nobody had really spoken to him. No, he was put on a side ward because he had C. diff, and he'd got a ton of stuff which was contagious. So they stuffed him in a side ward and almost forgotten about him. And I was really worried that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've been up there every single day. And then I said to him on the Sunday, I said, I've got to spend the day with the children on Monday, but I'll come up Tuesday morning.
Hmm.
He said, yeah, that's fine. And because we'd kind of argued he was arguing with his mum. He was really angry with her, and he
Hmm.
was saying stuff. And I said, just ignore what he's saying. He's not really making sense. But he was ordering tons off Amazon and it was all coming to our house. So I was coming back and there was parcels on the doorstep. I was like, what the heck? And he was ordering tons. He just wasn't really aware of what he was doing, I don't think. So
Yeah.
I said, thanks for the blanket that turned up. He's like, yeah, it's not a blanket, it's a unicorn.
Oh,
Oh, I was like, right, okay, yeah. It
okay.
was all different colours, but okay. It was things that he just said that weren't quite right, but it was fine. I didn't really question it.
Yeah.
Then the Sunday we'd gone up and I said, I'll see you on the Monday. And I got home and on the doorstep was a pot plant that he'd bought off some other site
Uh-huh.
and a card that said, I love you on the front. And it said inside, it said, I know it's hard, but I love you. And that's all it said. And so so he rang me. I said, thank you. And I've got all of that. And I will definitely see you on Tuesday. Obviously, I'll see you Monday. So then Monday came and he'd text me 24/7. He was not stopped texting me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was ringing me through the night. So I'd actually turned my phone off in the end because he didn't know whether it was night or day. And that was getting a bit much. And the
Hmm.
next day, and he'd rang me at 4 o'clock in the morning, that Sunday night morning. But I did actually have my phone on at that point and I missed the call and I rang straight back and he didn't answer. And I
Right.
thought, okay, fair enough. He probably just doesn't know what time of day it is. So the next day I didn't hear anything from him Monday. And had the children and I was like, oh, I haven't heard from him. That's really weird. Haven't had a morning message, nothing. So I rang the hospital and I said, is he okay? What's going on? Haven't
Hmm.
heard from him. Can he not reach his phone because he couldn't get out of bed to get it anyway? Can you make sure it's charged up? And they went, yeah, yeah, no, he's fine. He's up, he's sat up, he's eating breakfast, he's dressed, I said, oh, okay,
Mm.
right, fine. So he's
Yeah.
fine. Don't worry, we've got him, we're looking after him. He's done it, basically, they said he's done this to himself. You don't have to worry. He's our problem now. We'll
Oh,
sort him out. You have a break. And she was lovely, the lady I spoke to, but just obviously didn't quite get
no,
it.
what was going on? Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I said okay, and I that's my only regret. I wish I'd gone up to the hospital on that Monday.
Yeah.
I never did. and
But
it's a long
yeah,
way. The hospital was like 45 minutes away as well,
yeah.
so it's back forward, back.
And the last times you'd seen him, you'd been
He's all
sitting
right.
having you were having
I was
conversation with him.
being
He was all
told he
right.
was
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, exactly. So,
and
you know.
he did say that he had spoken to a doctor, and there was that he was definitely getting better,
Hmm.
but there was a slight chance that he could end up on a ventilator. That's what he told me. I didn't have, and so I don't know why I hadn't really looked into that. And obviously, he's saying all these random things as well. I was like, right, okay, but he seemed
Hmm.
fine. He was not quite fine, but he was there. So then the Tuesday, I still hadn't. I'd been up nearly. I don't think I'd slept at all really. I think I was awake all night nearly because I
Hmm.
was just obviously like anxious about what was going on, what's happening. Then Amelie had horse riding near the hospital
Hmm.
the other day with some friends. She'd just been invited there randomly, and it happened to be next to the hospital, which was really strange. So I was actually 10 minutes from the hospital and dropped Amelie off, and I got a phone call from the hospital saying, "Can you come to the hospital now and come straight to critical care?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what's happened?" And I was like, "Oh, something's happened. He's obviously um like what's happened." And if
Hmm.
we tell you when you get here, just get here. So I rang my mum and I said to mum, she said I'm on the way. And I got there and I didn't know, so we're critical care and they sent me to this room. And then I sat in this room. They said, "Can you sit in the visitor room?" So I thought they were going to come and tell me he died. And they came in, they said he took a turn overnight, um, and we've had to ventilate him because he is he's gone down. He couldn't breathe, so he had oxygen as well actually the night before, and he couldn't quite breathe properly. So we're helping him.
Hmm.
He's going to be okay. He's just on the ventilator. We're just breathing for him because it's giving his body a break because
Yeah.
he like everything. So I said okay. They explained what I'd see when I went in. When you go in, it's going to be quite hard to see him like this. So they said, so obviously we want to prepare you for when you see him. He's got tubes everywhere. He's is properly sedated and ventilated. So I said, okay. There's still nothing quite prepared me for that. I walked in and I was just like so shocked to see
Hmm. Hmm.
what's going on. I was like, oh, okay. And that was on the Tuesday. Then the days that followed just kind of blurred into one, really. They said to
Yeah.
me, they said, "We're going to wake him up on Wednesday." It was Wednesday. Wednesday. And so I said, okay, so come up, we'll try and wake him up. So then I went up on the Wednesday and they said, we tried to wake him up, and he had a fit while they woke him up, which he bit through the breathing tube, choked on it. We had to resuscitate him twice, re-put the breathing tube in, and we've had to sedate him again because every time they wake him up, he fits.
Yeah.
So, and this, so he's set back all of his care that we've done. Is set right back to the beginning of when he first went in.
Mm.
So I was right, okay. Oh, it was just so a roller coaster. Literally, I felt like I, my whole body was like in shock, and I was just not really sure what I was
Were
doing.
they explaining everything to you
Yeah,
quite
they were
well as well?
so good. They were absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. You
Yeah.
could not fault that. Critical care unit was incredible, and they are so caring.
Hmm.
And they said, "You don't. We've had so many alcoholics on the ventilators,
Hmm.
and a massive increase since lockdown because everyone started drinking in
Yeah. Yeah.
lockdown, and we've had such a massive wave of like yeah, alcoholic on the ventilator." So he said, "You should be okay. We'll try." But then a doctor came, spoke to me, and said, "I don't think he's coming back from this." He said, I can just want to tell you now, he's not, he's, we think he's brain damage from the last fit he had. We think because his eyes aren't, one's not dilating or something, always dilated. Um, the other thing is if he gets anything wrong, if he gets sepsis, pneumonia, he listed about 20 things that could happen. He said any one of those things will kill him. He said you've got 20% chance that I think it was 20% chance he'll come off the ventilator, 10% chance of going back onto a ward, 5% chance that he'll actually, I think and an even less percent chance that he said, and if he comes off, he'll be in palliative care in a nursing home. So if would you want to live like that? It's basically what he said, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they're basically giving you the option,
I
like,
said I
are
want
we
him.
turning the machine off or
All I
not? Yeah.
wanted to do was him to come round so that I could say goodbye.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And yeah, he didn't obviously, but he then on the Friday, then on the weekend, they said, right, we're going to turn the ventilator off tomorrow. So with agreement that everybody's in agreement, we're turning it off. Because
Mhm.
I went in the next day, the bag had gone red, and I said, he's in kidney failure, isn't he? And they just nodded. And I was like, right, okay, that's it then. So then they sat down with us and said, so everybody meet here, his mum, me, and my mum, and everyone meet here 10 o'clock the next day to turn the ventilator off. So like, okay. And then we went up to turn the ventilator off on the Monday, so nearly been a week. And they said, it must have been Sunday. It was Sunday. So what? They said to
Mm.
me, there's been a change in circumstances. We're not turning the vent. I was like, what? He's alive? Like, what's going on? And they said he's an organ donor. He
Oh.
signed the forms 3, 4 times. Every time he went into hospital, he signed those forms. They said he
Mhm.
expressed his wishes so much that we know that he wanted to donate. So they showed me the forms that he'd signed. They said, with your permission, we would like to go ahead with his wishes. I was like, okay. And they said, but we've got 24 hours to find a match. And
Mhm.
then he has to die within a 4 hour time frame for us to be able to use the organs. So I was like, all right, okay. And then they said, and we could ring you in the next 24 hours, we'll ring you at any time through the night and or day.
Yeah.
And you have to be at the hospital and he like within the hour of us. So right, okay. And then so
And you're
I was
45
awake.
minutes away, aren't you? So, yeah.
Yeah, I was awake all night again. Oh, I just did not sleep at all for that week, really. I
Yeah.
don't know how. I was off adrenaline like completely. And they said to me, then I got a phone call at 6 in the morning, I think. We had 6 hours of paperwork to sign every single organ and every single part of his body over to them. And they had to have 3 signatures on each individual part of his body. And then it's like, do you want the eyes donated? Do you want the other part? And would you like to donate the rest to science? It was like that kind of, it was
Yeah.
just his mum signing a bit, me signing a bit, then the nurse and the doctor. And
And
it
and all
took
the time while you're
6 hours of
just
just,
going through this absolutely traumatic experience that, yeah.
the only thing was I was desperate for him to be a match for somebody. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
please, please be a match. And when they rang me at 6 o'clock the next morning, and I'd driven back and forward all the time. I'd been driving myself there, I'd done everything.
Mhm.
And they rang me at 6 in the morning and they said, we found 3 matches and they are all on their way to different hospitals.
For
And
what? Because obviously, I'm sure
so,
you
so
were
his
like,
heart, yeah, his
yeah,
heart and his kidneys, the
his
3 matches.
kidneys.
So it's they because when he was on the ventilator, they couldn't save him. They could save his kidneys. They
Yeah.
filtered them and everything overnight so that they would be okay for somebody else.
Right. Right.
So he then wasn't in kidney failure. So they got his organs up to a standard that they
Yeah.
needed to transplant, but they obviously
Oh,
couldn't save the liver. So
yeah.
or his there was the
Pan
lungs, but
pancreas. Did they
the
do
lungs
that?
were filled with fluid, so they couldn't use that.
Yeah.
The pancreas, he had pancreatitis and stuff. Then so they did use they basically took the heart patient to the one heart. They said, yeah, so now we've got to get up there within the hour. And I was just like, right. And I couldn't drive. I was shaking. I was like, I can't drive. And we
Yeah.
had the children with me, but they were asleep still because it was the 6 in the morning.
Mm.
So mum said, so I rang my friend, like one of my best friends, and she said she sent her husband to pick me up and said, we'll meet you at the hospital. He'll come and get you, get me, we'll go together. So they picked me up. But the traffic was horrendous. It took like an hour or something to get there. They did wait for us, and his mum, and they were coming from further away.
Mm.
So they and we actually got there before his mum and everyone. I got there first, which was good because I went in and managed
Yeah.
to I spent a bit of time with him. We played music to him and things like that. And then we walked down the corridor with him on this. When they finally said they took him off all the stuff, they said, we're going to take the sedation away, we're going to take everything away.
Hmm.
They give you an end of life injection, which I guess just relaxes everything. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Slows
but
everyone down.
as they took the stuff away, he started panicking. And I
Mm.
put my hand because they said he could still hear you. So and when they were talking, they'd never have the conversations in the room about anything, but they said he's going for an operation. So that he thought he was going for an operation. And whatever he can hear was he's going to have an operation now. And he started to panic, and as so he was off the sedation, he started to shake, and I was thinking, oh my God, that's not good, because he was so unstable. They said anything could just, if he died like there, we couldn't do it. So
Mm.
I put my hand on his head and I just went, it's all right, I'm right here. I told you I'd stay with you the whole time. And I was holding his hand, and he just relaxed. He
Mm.
says, okay, I'm coming with you. We're going down to the operating theatre. You're going to be fine.
Yeah,
And I said, all you've got to do is just stay calm, and then
yeah,
everything will be fine. And he did. He calmed right down, and then they managed to move him down the corridor, and everybody in the corridor just bows their head, and they know what's happening. It's so surreal. And we go into this corridor where they shut the doors, but on the other side's the operating theatre. So we went in, and they said they removed the tube. And then they asked what song you want played. So I played Amazed by You, Lone Star.
oh,
It's good. And he
yeah,
took and then he took his last breath at the end of that song. So it literally, the song ended, and he just literally, that it was so surreal. And then we had to, because you have to get out straight away as soon as the person's died. You don't have the time after, which is why they gave us the time before.
yeah, yeah. Because then
And
they've got to
then
do what they need to do.
yeah, so his mum was trying to drag me out the room because I didn't want to leave him, but she then we went to the visitor room, and we were like, now what? And that was kind
Yeah.
of like sat there going, oh, what? And
What do
then
we do now?
yeah, we were like, what do we do now? We're in the visitor room and there's nothing. Now what? It was so weird. Then we went to the flat where he had been in a disabled place,
Yeah.
and sat in there for a while, had a cup of tea, and just, it was so surreal. It was just weird. Then I
And
got a
just
phone call
and just
saying,
I'm so sorry, Lucy. I mean, obviously I've heard the story, your story before, and it's just it absolutely just devastated me when I heard it before, and it still does as well because it's such a powerful story, and you know, I don't know how anyone can go through anything like that. It's such a young age as well. I mean, how old was Dan when they
41 when he
41?
died, when they
So
turned
young.
41, and I was 40. So it was so strange. It was so unreal, really. I still kind of think it's a bit unreal that all
Yeah,
that happened. I can't quite.
because this is when you and Dan were meant to, you've got a young family, you're meant to be doing all these amazing things, but obviously this disease has gotten hold of him,
Yeah,
and it's just, destroyed.
he couldn't fight anymore. I think at the end he was just, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't fight this. It's bigger than me, and I can't do it. And you're all better off without me. It was like you're and a lot of people, I suppose, would say, was it a relief when he died because you haven't got all that? But it wasn't. It was
No.
the total. It was like everything stopped. It was so weird. My whole life, just from being full on with Dan and
Yeah.
taking care of him, looking after him and the children, he's gone. And all the text messages stop, all of the, like,
Yeah.
every interact. It's so
Because
strange.
it's been since you were 26,
Yeah.
and I know that from your story, it sounds like it was kind of, right from the start, a kind of,
Mm.
bit of a kind of rocky ship, but I bet you had some amazing times as well. Otherwise,
Yeah.
why would you have stayed with Dan all that time, and still be fighting in his corner the whole time, when
Yeah, the
people are
whole time, even
ready
like
to give up.
when he couldn't work, and I'm saying he needs disability benefit. I
Yeah.
mean, we got declined for that about 3 months before he died. He got declined. Oh, you're not bad enough to have PIP.
Yeah.
We had to ring him and say, seriously, he's ill. Yes, he's alcoholic, but he's done this. It's not about that. And
Yeah.
so oh, it was a lot of fighting, and
And That
Yeah.
was what, 2022, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2022. Yeah, the 6th of September, which is the day the children started back at school. And their first day back in, like, and
Yeah.
Isaac just went straight back. No, like, but it was easier telling them that he saved 3 people the day he died. And we got the
Yeah.
phone call saying that the transplants had been successful and
Hmm.
this he'd saved
Oh,
one man's life because this man, I think um he was 60, the man that had got his heart.
yeah.
And he was at the end of his life. He was going to die, and he had 2 daughters. They were in their 20s. They said that his children, his daughters, want to tell you just how much you changed their life and thank you. So that was
So that's,
amazing.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I've got like so much stuff, and I think I want to write his story, and I struggle to pick it up almost because it's all like crazy
Because
amount
it's
of
because it's still raw. It's only
yeah,
what,
Dan and his
3 years
friends.
ago. Yeah. Wow. And
Bless you.
what age was he then?
He's in the middle there. I
Yeah.
think he was, so must have been like 39, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And he looks happy,
He's
I mean, I've
healthy.
I've seen the
That was the
pictures
other
on your
thing. You
Instagram.
look healthy and you sound all right, so
Yeah.
you
You
don't
must
need
be
any
fine. You
help.
don't need help. Yeah.
That's all this stuff going on in between. We
And so
got,
how are you and the children now?
yeah, okay.
Getting there. Yeah.
I met somebody for a bereavement group. Were you into the bereavement? I joined Widowed and Young.
Hmm.
And that I couldn't be around anyone that
No.
didn't understand. I just couldn't even, I found that impossible
Yeah.
to be around people that didn't get it. So I joined that group and they were amazing. The people that they'd all lost, it was for anybody under the age of 50 that had lost a husband or a wife.
Hmm.
And they were all various things, some horrific, some just like a lot of cancer. There was alcohol, suicide, and drugs,
Yeah.
and they were, and they just got it. They understood everything, and they had children. Lots of them have children.
Yeah.
So I've met somebody through that group, Paul, and his wife died a month before Dan. She died of the same. She died of liver cirrhosis.
Oh
And
wow.
in the same way, kind of, she wasn't on a ventilator, but she ended up with liver cancer from it, and ended up, she died. She went into the hospice and died the next day. So we had a
And
lot
how
of
old was how old was she?
46.
So young. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got 2 children, and so we're kind of we're still living obviously separately.
Yeah, yeah, but you're
So
taking it slowly, but hopefully
yeah,
eventually like a
yeah,
blended family. But
yeah.
that's the thing for me
But
when
the
I,
children get it. The children are all
yeah,
together. The children,
and they understand what's happened because
mm,
when I got sober, the only people I could really speak to at the time was people that had been through it,
yeah,
like support workers. Yeah, they're great, but if they haven't actually come
mm,
big in recovery, then they don't get
yeah,
it.
and
And
that's it.
you've had to deal with this
The
pretty
same sort
much
of
your whole
thing.
adult life.
I could speak to everybody at the time. I went to NACOA, and
Mm,
they are absolutely amazing, and they
yeah,
helped a lot because they had other, like, people that had experienced the same sorts of things, other people that had had to turn the ventilators off,
yeah,
and other. And then I met obviously Sober Dave and all
yeah,
the sober community,
yeah.
which then I was like, actually, there is this sober community and people can get better. And that gave me more hope. And that I just thought, I've got to do something
Yeah.
to help and change this situation and make it so that Dan didn't just die for no reason. And he's helped a lot of people. I think he has actually helped quite a lot of people.
He really has. I mean, as I say, I saw you and I heard you on Sober Dave's podcast and then follow you on Instagram. And it's, Dan's story resonated so much with me because, we're of similar ages. And
Mm,
if I hadn't stopped that, that would have been, that could have been
yeah.
my story as well. And I know there's people out there that I'm a peer mentor now, so I'm trying to help people as well because
Mm.
more needs to be done. This alcohol, it's just this socially accepted thing
It's
that,
crazy and it
like,
drives.
I didn't know, and I'm sure Dan was the same. We didn't know what diseases and ailments come from
Yeah,
drinking too much because they don't
no,
tell us.
no. It's only when you get a stomach cancer or something like that from
Yeah,
drinking.
yeah,
But, oh yeah, but now you've got cancer, we can help you, and you can be
yeah.
seen as a
Or if you hear of someone that's got that, it's like, oh, well, they must have done a lot of it. They must have really pushed the boat out and all that. But
No,
it's not the case.
no.
It affects people differently. Um,
And I just think, oh,
but
with
yeah,
alcohol and drugs, it's used to like it's almost used as self-medicating for
yeah,
another
of course, yeah,
situation. And I just think that's where people don't quite understand. Not everyone, it's starting to become more and more understood.
yeah,
And us, when Amelie just went to Parliament, took her letter, and we went on
yeah.
TNTV and went, right, this needs changing. The whole lot needs sorting out. We need to change the opinion. I've got a letter back from the government saying they're
Mhm.
putting more funding into rehab centres and to help the person that's addicted. So they
But
sent a big letter back to us. But
which is amazing. But at this point, alcohol companies still self-regulate, so they're
I
allowed
want
to.
them to stop the advertising. They
Yeah,
won't stop the advertising. And then the other day they're joking about, oh, well, why would we want, well, that's just silly. Children don't pay attention to adverts, do they? And that was one thing. They were like, well,
so
actually,
there was a
so why
lady.
play the advert?
Yeah.
So
But there was a lady I was listening to on a podcast a while back, and I can't remember her name, but she used to work for a marketing advertising company. And whenever they got an alcohol firm, it was like ka-ching, big money coming in. She said she sat there in a boardroom with all the big wigs, and what they were saying was, right, we've got our older drinkers that go down the pub, they're fine. We've got them sorted. We've got the kind of middle-aged ones, they're fine, they're sorted. We need to start focusing and marketing on the underagers. And they said that in this boardroom. So that's why there's all these kind of alcohol pops are coming back. There's all these different things because it's a new market. It's a growing market for the youngsters. And I think they see that a lot of younger people now aren't drinking as much as like
no, they're
when we were
not.
younger because they don't
No.
want to do it. They know the risks or they're learning
Yeah,
the risks.
so they're
And
like, oh, we better. But that's what they're saying about the
yeah,
adverts, taking them off when it's children's time for watching TV, because they shouldn't be playing them over that time, but they are. Because
yeah.
they're like, well, we're targeting the parents, and children don't take it in, but they
Of course they're
do.
taking it in. They're taking it in subconsciously. Like if you go back 10, 20 years ago, or maybe 30 years ago now, tobacco advertising was everywhere, but that's been outlawed. That's off the table. You
Like
can
how they've
hardly
come back with
find
their
people that
vapes.
smoke. Well, yeah, I mean, but hopefully they're gonna
It's like,
ban the single-use ones soon. But it's still madness. So, Lucy, do you still think that alcohol has a place in our society?
no, not really. I do. I think in moderation. I
Yeah,
think I don't know. It's a difficult one because Um, it was strange when Dan had died, and I didn't want to drink after that.
yeah.
And the first thing people were saying to me is, "Oh, well, let's go out and have a night out. You can come out and have a party with us. Like, I know what will cheer you up. Let's go out and get drunk." And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not going to
Know
cheer me
know
up.
your audience, people. Know your audience. Like,
No, it's just they just don't know.
yeah.
It's
Because the
like so
thing is,
many people
I
are
think this is
naive and
still
don't get it.
it's naivety
They're
and
where I was at 26 when I had no idea.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the amount of people that you go into the pub and you buy some sort of like a soft drink and they go, "Oh, is that it? You're not going to have, do you not want like something stronger?"
A real
It's
drink,
like,
yeah. Admit it's the thing
yeah.
is that again, like I'm not saying we should ban alcohol outright because I know that that's never going to happen, but we need to educate people so that they
I think it's,
understand what
yeah,
they're putting in their body.
education.
Like for someone who all Dan was doing was having a drink, and I know obviously his drinking was a lot more than say a moderate drinker, but
Yeah.
he's got osteoporonia, or I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Osteopenia,
Osteopenia, and
osteopenia
it's just
at the age
like,
of 32
yeah,
and then pancreatitis at what 34,
it's
35. It's
just
that
on,
shouldn't be happening, but it
the
does
heart,
because it's a poison.
the fitting because it's alcohol
Yeah,
and seizures. It can do so much that people don't know.
yeah,
And so many people drink like every night
yeah,
and don't see it as a problem because they're
no.
just having a couple of beers after work. But
And the
actually,
thing is,
that builds up.
if you're not getting drunk from it, you think it's not a problem, but it's still,
Yeah,
well, then why are you doing it? Oh, it relaxes me, or it does this and it does that.
yeah,
There's other ways of relaxing, but what it's doing is because your body's so used to having that every night to relax yourself, you
let's do it. You can't actually
you just keep
sleep with
doing it.
it. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
you
that
don't
do
get
that,
proper
they
sleep at
don't
all.
sleep, don't properly
No.
sleep, and
Do you
yeah,
have any little insights that you might want to share with us from Dan's journals on, how he was feeling or how he was, because I think you
yeah.
mentioned that he might,
I think I got this critical care diary at the very end. I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Amazing. And I didn't know, but every day the nurses wrote something at the end of the day to Dan.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'll only read you one. I just read two, like to
Yeah.
Charlie. So the first one, my name is Lorraine. I'm a nurse that cares for you today. Unfortunately, due to your increased oxygen demands, we've had to intubate you, put you on a ventilator and give your lungs a rest and your body a rest. We have managed to bring your oxygen requirements down as the day has progressed, which is good news. Replacing your electrolytes, and we have inserted an NG to feed you slowly. You are requiring a small amount of medication to help with your blood pressure, but this is quite normal on your sedation. Lucy has been here all day. Your mum's also here. You're very much loved. We hope you get better soon. All the best. And all the best, Daniel, Lorraine. So
Oh,
those are nice. And then each day, you're then it was like, oh, you remain sedated and the oxygen levels are quite high. We're going to boost the oxygen, and we need to boost it when we turn you. And then so your Lucy visited and your friend from university. Each day they'd written a little bit about that. I'm Marissa. I've been your overnight nurse. You were still poorly, but you've been more stable overnight. You are intubated and sedated at the moment, and you need medication to support your blood pressure this morning. Otherwise, you're getting the appropriate treatment. Lucy was here till late last night with a lot of encouragement and reassurance. She has gone home to rest, as she's had very little rest since you came in. Keep fighting, Daniel, and get better soon.
oh.
And then, yeah, it went on quite a few.
I love that they're adding those little bits because it's just like their
Yeah,
notes, isn't it? They don't have to
there's
be
this.
writing get better soon and things.
I've been looking after you. You're intubated. You were not waking up properly, and you bit on the breathing tube. So we've had to restart your sedation. You are breathing with help on the machine and high amounts of oxygen. Unfortunately, we're unable to reduce the oxygen. Keep fighting. And then the last one. I am Shirley. I looked after you in the night shift. Unfortunately, you're very unwell. We won't be able to help you, so we and your lovely family have decided to fulfill your wish. We have discussed your case with the organ donation team, so we're happy to involved, and they're happy to accept your beautiful heart and kidneys. It's a long process to find a recipient. Now they've managed to find 2 people who will benefit from your valuable gift. So it was 3 by the time they rang me, so that's good.
Yeah.
We plan to take you to theatre at 9. At present, we have transfusion blood. Your blood pressure is a little on the low side. Lucy's been informed, and she will be here any time now. In a way, I'm happy for you as you're escaping this world with no more pain or trouble. You are helping other families, which is great. Rest in peace. Until we meet again on the beautiful shore, lots of love, compassionate and caring. Shirley. That was the last one. And I didn't know they'd done any of that, so that was really
Yeah.
nice to have at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking, but these are just little things that I guess makes it
yeah.
not easier, but more
It's,
softened.
I'll have to find. He wrote quite a lot. I'm seeing if I can find the one where he said, it's all different. He was about me, and he did write
Hmm.
quite a bit. Um, um, Lucy, so he's basically said about how the disease has affected his close family.
Hmm.
Um, he said, again, alcohol took progressive steps to try and separate the Daniel that my family knew from them. When I truly accepted the addiction at first, I shared this with my partner Lucy and my mum. This was As this trickled down the grapevine, my siblings became more distant, or at least it seemed that way. To my paranoid state, mum worried but has stuck by me and bailing me out financially, cancelling work to sit by my hospital bed, or babysitting when I was too sick to be around the children. And the list is endless. At times, the times I called my mum or returned to the house I grew up in, and I still call home, it has put a strain on her relationship with her long-term partner. Things currently I can't visit home, and I haven't seen my mum since her boyfriend reached breaking point and punched me.
Mm.
I'm hoping to make amends. My partner and children, my partner Lucy and the children, Isaac and Emily. My addiction existed before they were born, and they're in their relatively short lifetimes. They they have had home moves many times, and my son's changed school mid-year. They've had to comprehend why Daddy doesn't live with them at times, and all the emotional upheaval that comes alongside physical separation. Lucy has shouldered the worst of it. She has stayed with me. We are a couple, but she struggles. I have put her through what I have put her through would make most run for the hills. At my heaviest drinking and the lowest points, she's made the correct decision to leave me in what was our house. It's only recently that I've shown what's the rest of it on? Resolve to starting to my long life recovery journey at the end of or at least the resolution is in sight. We've had some tense conversations prior to me coming here. My actions have alienated me from her side and the family almost completely. Where visiting her mum and dad was normal part of our life, I'm now shunned, and this makes difficult points of tension. I didn't attend my sister-in-law's wedding or the family events over Christmas. I got little time, and complacency and addiction got the better of me. So yeah,
Yeah, you can tell
there's
he's
so much. I can't get
no, but
so much, but I wanted to put
you
it all
know,
into one book
yeah.
because
And I think when the time's right, you will do that because he obviously
yeah,
does have,
so,
remorse, and he wanted to make amends, and
yeah,
all of these things that he was, feeling, and I suppose learning, and maybe in AA as well.
yeah. I think my understanding.
And that's the thing with this disease. It's not the person, like some people say, oh, why don't you just stop drinking? Or why are you doing this? And it's like, they don't want to, I didn't want to be that alcoholic person,
No, no.
um,
I,
and, I think with Dan, there was a lot of failings on the kind of care that was, not there for him. That
yeah,
was the kind of main thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
He said, alcoholism is my prominent addiction, though I have lurking in the background others waiting to show themselves. Control, obsessive compulsive disorder. Women have
Mm.
all appeared in my past um, and with or without alcohol. Addiction that left unchecked could equally ruin my life. Me dealing with the disease of addiction is like a tug of war between knowing what I should be doing, recognizing the correct and pointless actions on one team, and the disease, cunning, deceiving, and battling on the other. The disease has the stronger pull by far, and for a long time, winning many battles. Disease wants to win, and alcohol will tug relentlessly against my weakened defensive. That's what he's written. He's good at writing.
Yeah, no, he's obviously got a talent for that. Yeah, I mean, I think that last little bit there, we should maybe leave it there. Lucy, thank you so much for
Yeah.
giving up your time, and I know it must be tough to kind of tell the story again. You do sound a lot stronger than when I heard you, on Sober Dave's. What was that? Two
Yeah.
years ago now? Yeah, a
Yeah,
year
I think
ago.
it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, maybe a year. Yeah, it's probably a year ago. I
Maybe
think.
even be 2 years ago, yeah. The
Yeah,
2023,
might have been. Yeah,
but
probably was.
later on in the year.
Yeah, but later on, yeah,
Yeah,
2023, but later on in the year. So it'd been a year, I think. It was
yeah.
coming probably a year after. Yeah, time just, I don't know, just disappears and
It
doesn't.
does disappear, doesn't it? But you do sound stronger, and you're doing well, and the kids are doing well, and that's kind of the main thing. And I guess that little silver lining that Dan obviously helped those three people with his
Yeah,
donor as well.
I'd like to meet
Yeah.
them one day.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure the kids would as well, if they feel up
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Lucy. And
Thank
if
you.
there's anything you ever need, just give me a shout, and I'll do what I can. All right.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Speak to you soon. Cheers, Lucy.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thanks, Lucy. Incredible, incredibly sad story. Incredibly powerful story. So thank you again, Lucy, for, giving up your time. And, I know I said you do seem stronger, but it must still be horrendous to kind of relive that whole ordeal. It's a huge chunk of her adult life, from 26 up until, 40s, when, she sadly lost Dan. Just, I when I hear of people saying, oh, you've got a drink problem, you could just stop, yeah, I did stop. I stopped, but it wasn't easy, and it was the single hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And had I continued drinking, I know that it would have killed me. And that's the sad truth, is that some people don't get out of it in time, and then they're lost. And Dan, sadly, has become another one of those statistics that only 2 to 4% of us in recovery stay in recovery. Dan was trying; he was doing his best, but it had just got its grip on him far too much from such an early age to be having red flags and things like that from when he was 27, when he started getting a relationship with Lucy. It's just it just becomes his life, to even think about trying to save money, so we'll switch to vodka. Other people would say, well, why don't you just stop drinking? Yeah, it's not as easy as that. And then to be told by the doctors, you're not as bad a case as someone that I would send to rehab. So he's obviously thinking, like I would have taken that as a green light. Well, I'm not as bad as other people, so I'll continue drinking. But then to just have, all these different ailments where his bones had become so brittle, it is an absolute killing poison that the government are just allowing, and not only allowing, encouraging to people to just continue to drink, and it's okay, it's fine to do this, and allow people to not be educated and not have all the full facts of the matter, and then they end up like Dan. So yeah, absolutely heartbreaking tale. But I know that this story needs to get out there and it needs to be told. So thank you, Lucy, for coming on, and good luck with the book. I'll be, desperate to read that when you do finally get it done and get it published. So yes, yeah. So thanks for watching. Anyone that's watched this, apologies for the continuity of my my wardrobe change. But obviously I record and do these bits at different points of time. I've just re-listened to and rewatched the episode with Lucy. And you know what? I do enjoy listening to podcasts in my ears when I'm working. But it was actually nice to just sit and watch while I was editing the whole episode, and to see people's faces. So I can understand why people do videos. So this is the start of all of my podcasts, hopefully, if my guests allow it, because some people might not want to be on video, and that's cool, so it'll just be an audio one. But yeah, apologies about the I've still not long moved into Jen's place, so I'm kind of we're kind of sorting out the studio. So apologies, there's a few boxes and bits and bobs that you can see in the background there, but eventually we're going to have this place looking like a proper podcast studio. So yeah, just bear with us. I do this, I get it in my head that I want to do something, and then I just go full flung into it. So without really kind of organising everything around it, I just do it. So we're on video now, and that's it. But you'll see from the episodes as we go forward that the studio will start changing. We'll have a picture up there, got my little camera light there, and all that stuff there will get kind of tidied away. But it's not too messy. It's a great little studio. Yeah. Other than that, All good. Hit the 5-star review. Let me know what you think about the video if you've watched it. Yeah, stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Catch you next week, guys. Cheers. Bye bye.